Who is your daddy?
I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
Welcome back, you guys. Here we are for episode 3 of Fathers of the Grind. I've got with me my co-host and arch nemesis, Derek Teague.
Hey, how you doing, Sam?
My name is Tim Nestor, and we are looking forward to diving into a whole bunch of news and game releases and a whole bunch of things we're not going to agree on. I can already guarantee you of that. So thanks for sticking with us here through the first few episodes. And don't forget, we do have a website and blog with where you can follow us with whether it's the podcast releases or maybe if it's a blog post or information about me and Derek. Hopefully at some point we'll start to add some more onto that, but that's fathersofthegrind.com. Most importantly, you can use that to contact us, so head on over there for that. I actually just posted recently my, I guess you can call it a review. It's like a really, really late review for Uncharted 2, but it's basically...
That game just launched,
it just
a
came
few
out.
days ago, so you really jumped on that
losing
real
all
fast.
credibility.
Now, before
as
you
I
jump
speak.
into this, I have to ask, is this really episode 3 or is it 2? Because you're kind of confusing me. Because our first episode was 0, and then
Yeah, I don't know what
I don't know
idiot
how we
came up with
jumped
that,
from 0 to
but
3.
That first episode, if you go back and listen to part 1 of episode 1, I actually say part 0. I fully anticipated that episode something to go wrong with the audio, or Derek and I discovered this is not a good idea or something. I thought it would be like a test episode, and it turns out we liked it, and it was our first episode. So if you go back and listen to that, ignore me. I'm an idiot. This is episode 3.
So this is legit 3. Okay. I didn't know if we were like...
legit 3. This is the American 3. Over in Japan, it's 6.
Oh.
It's kind of switched around that way, yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, now you
Yeah,
can
it's
jump back into your, that newly released Uncharted 2 review.
Yeah. So Uncharted 2, basically, as someone who never played the Uncharted games, for those of you who listened already, you know that I never had a PS3, so I am only now being able to experience some of these PS3 games, Uncharted series being some of those main games that I've always wanted to play. So anyway, head on over there. You can check out my reactions to Uncharted 2. Spoiler alert, it's amazing. All right, so speaking of games, Derek, why don't you share with us some of the stuff you're currently playing right now? What is it that you're spending your very little time, free time, playing?
Well, of course, at the top of that list is Rocket League. Still playing that pretty much daily. If I log on and play, I gotta play at least a match or two. Sometimes I get caught up playing more than that. I did recently, celebrating the holiday weekend of Martin Luther King Jr., I actually had 4 days off, so not only did I play a lot of Rocket League, but I also finished The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone. So that was a really, really good DLC / expansion. I don't know if they consider that expansion, because they're actually releasing expansions later on this year. But it was really good. I really enjoyed The Witcher 3. In fact, I told Tim off air that I kind of regret putting The Witcher 3 at my number 4 spot for my top 10 of 2015.
Okay.
I think it definitely has to bump. I don't know. It would have to bump Assassin's Creed and Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, the question is, could it bump Rocket League? No. So it would probably fall in the 2 spot if I had to redo it. But anyways, that's
So then your top 3 would be Rocket League, Witcher 3, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
No, I would bump Assassin's Creed back, so it would be Rise of the Tomb Raider at 3.
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
okay.
keep that at 3.
I was going to say, we almost had the exact same top 3 with 1 and 2 swapped. That would be super weird.
Yeah, so, I really enjoyed Hearts of Stone. I'm obviously not going to go into spoilers, but one of the things I felt like they did really, really well with this is they gave me a story I cared about, which one of the things I don't support generally is DLC. It's not that I think it's a ripoff. I'm not one of those jerks who goes off and shouts about how EA is trying to take all my money or whatever the situation may be with DLC. But I usually just don't invest in it because I don't think it ever has any quality add-on to it. Basically, I feel like when I pay $60 for a game, and when I'm talking mainly with story-driven games here, but when I finish the story that they're trying to tell, I always feel like DLC and expansions are just tacked on stuff just to get maybe a little bit more money out of you, or maybe make you a little bit happy, with different type of content. Mm-hmm. But with this, I didn't feel like that. I really felt like this was part of what I had already invested in The Witcher 3. Like, I was still controlling Geralt. I was meeting people in his life that had been a part of his life previously. I was building relationships. I was going through this overarching plot while doing other missions in between. It was just a great experience. Like, I would definitely rate it, if I was to review it, in the high 9s. So,
wow.
Really, really enjoyed it. And as somebody, again, who doesn't buy DLC, does not buy expansions, I will definitely be letting Tim buy the expansions for The Witcher 3 so I can play it.
Yeah, well, Hearts of Stone is one that I bought, and I still haven't played yet. But I think that time is coming soon, because as we get closer to releases like Firewatch and Far Cry Primal and some of these others that I'm really looking forward to, The Witness, I've heard, is going to be very time-consuming. So as these big hitters in 2016 come out, I'm going to want to make sure I knock out some things from the end of last year. So,
and that's the good thing
Hearts
about
of Stone
this
needs to
is
happen.
somebody, as two guys who, and we covered in the last episode, so I'm not going to dwell on it, who have busy lives, busy schedules. It's perfect because it's probably about 10 to 12 hours, so it would take realistically a week and a half to knock out. It took me like 4 or 5 days, but again, that's because I was on vacation, so I spent most of the time on my vacation when I was gaming, playing The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone. But another thing I do want to add in that makes this even better is this is a 10 to 12 hour, and I didn't do all the side quests, expansion or / DLC, but it was only $8 if you pre-ordered it, and if you were to listen to me now and go, I'm gonna go buy it right now, it's $10. Like, right. I think I even said to you, Tim, off air, that I said this would be something that would, if it was another game like Mass Effect, this would be $15-20. There's no way they would sell it for $8 to $10 unless it was on sale. But this is regularly priced at $10, so definitely a steal. So that was the main thing I played, and then I did start on Tuesday Resident Evil 0. Which, again, since I was off work, I actually invested a good amount of time, probably about 4 hours in it. And when I logged off, I was at 40% completion, which I was in shock. I figured I would play it a little bit and be like, this is too old of a game for me. I don't, like the tank controls or all these puzzles. If you haven't figured out, I'm not a big puzzle person. They get on my nerves. They've stopped the flow of games. But I enjoyed it. Will I finish it? I hope so. I tried to start playing it again tonight, but
so Resident Evil 0 is that like episode 1 of Resident Evil, but they just call it 0 because some idiot named it that?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those. They had so much success with 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and all that. They're like, well, maybe instead of doing higher numbers, we should just start at 0.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was thinking when I named episode 1 episode 0. You just didn't follow. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. We had a lot of success in our previous episode, so I thought I'd go with 0.
You are not going to try to tie in Resident Evil to your foolishness.
I certainly am, and I stand by it.
But yeah, it was a pretty good game. But that's enough of me for a little bit. What have you been playing?
All right, so I've been there's 3 games that I've been spending time with over the last several days. Now, Resident Evil is something that, with all the Resident Evil stuff happening, I've been kind of curious to dive into that. Just as a quick aside, the only Resident Evil game that I've played start to finish is Resident Evil 4, which is by many considered to be the best one, but by others considered to be not a real Resident Evil game, just because it goes a lot more action, a lot more shoot 'em up Even though it does still use strategy and still has those scare moments and still has the puzzles, they're not as heavy as other RE games. So anyway, I've been considering maybe jumping back to the original Resident Evil HD, the remaster that they put out, or even Resident Evil 0. So they've both kind of piqued my interest a little bit to at least try them. I don't know that I would really dive in and experience every moment of both of those games, but I would at least want to give them a go.
I mean, I will say this, just, trying to take off nostalgia glasses here. While the games are fun, they are dated. I mean, it's not like you can sit there and play, even with their... And they have updated them. Like, they updated the controls. You can either play it classic tank, which that just means you hate your life if you play that. Tank controls, I should say. Or you can play with the updated controls. And it does control pretty good, but it's still a dated game. Like,
right, well, that's how I remember it with the tank controls. That's why I remember not loving it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, especially since my brother will probably listen to this podcast, all the original Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, I played those with my brother and then, like, a couple of my other friends. And all I would do is just sit there and watch them play and help them solve the puzzles. I wouldn't play it because I was just like, freaking hate these controls.
Yeah.
I was just going to die every time. If a zombie that's going 0.2 miles per hour is coming towards me and I had to turn my character around to shoot him, I would still die.
That's really funny, and I know that we haven't even gotten to the games I'm playing yet, but that's exactly how I played or experienced a lot of those games. I remember watching almost an entire playthrough of, I can't remember the exact title. It was Resident Evil. Is it Code Veronica X? Does that sound right?
Yes.
I think so. Anyway, even if I butchered the title, you guys know what I'm talking about, that popular Dreamcast Resident Evil game. And I watched my friend play that through from start to finish, and there's a few of us that would watch him play, and we all did the same thing. You kind of experience the jump scares, you try to help solve the puzzles, and whatever.
It was like our old school way of doing YouTube.
Yeah, it was like a Let's Play, except you're in the room and,
and you're
sitting really close to each other on the couch. Yeah. Yep. That was just me, though, maybe. That wasn't you. All right, so what am I playing? I am playing Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, the side-scrolling stealth action game from Ubisoft. It came out last spring, I think, or last winter. It's a really neat game. It doesn't quite hit all the high points of a game like Mark of the Ninja, which I think I've talked about before, but it is fun. And now I'm on sequence 8 out of 12, so I'm getting close to the end. I'm really enjoying it. Once they unlock a certain set of abilities, there's one in particular that I really like, where you can slide and assassinate as you're full speed running. There's a few missions where you need to escape quickly, and you can just keep running and sliding and slashing guards as you go. So it's just, there are moments that makes you feel very cool, and then there's other moments where kind of like the regular full Assassin's Creed games, the controls are like, why did my character do that? I didn't want to run up that wall. Like, believe it or not, there are a few of those types of moments that the controls kind of let you down, but they're so few and far between. Most of it's pretty enjoyable. I like the setting. I love the paintbrush stroke look of the graphics, the way even when you assassinate somebody, the way that red paint kind of splashes on the screen. It looks really cool. So I like that game.
Well, I couldn't get into that one. I tried. I'm not even going to lie. I'm never going to go back to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not for everybody. It also, I think it plays best when you try to get by everybody without being seen. Again, just like Mark of the Ninja, it's a lot more satisfying that way. Mm-hmm. It does not play well as an action game. Even though they do give you a ton of abilities to block and to counter and do all these fighting moves, the fighting system is not very good. So it's better to try to get through the game using your other tools and stealth abilities.
Okay.
So I'm almost finished with that. I'm enjoying it. India, once Assassin's Creed Chronicles India goes on sale, it's pretty much a no-brainer. I'll buy it because I like this one a lot. But I don't think I'll buy it yet. I think I'll wait till it drops a little bit. The other game I'm playing is Super Mario 3D Land on my 3DS.
I thought you beat that.
What's that?
I thought you beat that.
Okay, so I did beat it, and then after we talked about it, I was like, that was a really fun game. I'm going to go back and see how many more of those star coins do I have to get. And so over the last several days, it's one of those games that I get home from work, we finish dinner, we're cleaned up, and we're just kind of lounging around. The weather's too gross outside here in Ohio to go outside and do anything. So I'll pull out the 3DS, and sometimes the kids will play theirs, but more often than not, they all gather up behind me and they're watching me play Mario 3D Land. So it's become a fun family thing that we do again. It's been a while since we've done that, with the 3DS at least. And collecting those star coins has been really fun. So I've collected all of the star coins for all of the first 8 worlds, and now I'm working my way through the special worlds, and I've collected every star coin except for one. So for those of you who play Mario 3D Land, there's one star coin that I've left. It's in Special World 3. It's kind of like this mid-world castle of Bowser's, and it's one of those ones where you have 30 seconds, and you got to keep picking up the little time icons to add 10 seconds on. And wherever that final star coin is, I can't find it. So that's my last one, and then I'll have all 300.
I really hope you never find it. So
I will find it.
I hope you fail.
My kid, actually, we played it a little bit tonight, and my son was super disappointed that he didn't get to see me get it tonight because he had to go to bed, and so I had to promise him I wouldn't try anymore after he went to sleep. So I tried a little bit more.
Sweet family moment.
Still didn't get it. All right, the last game I'm playing, I just downloaded for free off of the iTunes store, is Lifeline. So I thought I'd mention that.
That
kind of a neat little.
Awesome.
It's just like this text adventure game, basically. Like you get these messages from someone who needs your help, and you can give them responses. You basically have like the 2 choices to pick, and then they'll do that, and then it'll say, he's busy and he's away for a while, and then so you'll put your phone down and you'll get a notification, almost like a text. And he starts talking to you again because he's finished whatever task you suggested that he do. So it's kind of interesting, kind of creepy, I guess, too, because the game's talking to you on your phone. It looks like a real text coming in.
Oh,
but yeah, but it's kind of cool.
Not bad. I will add on before we move on. I did play Yoshi's Woolly World for the first time with my daughter. That's a really good game. That's a freaking gorgeous game too.
Okay.
So, while I'm still going to push you to get an Xbox One first, I do suggest you get a Wii U. There are some freaking good titles, and since you do have like 9 kids,
I do.
The Wii U.
I have added 4 kids since last week, everybody. I had 5 last week, but now I have 9.
Yeah. The Wii U does have some great games.
My poor wife. She's dead.
Jeez Louise. She's going through a tough time right now. Obviously between 3D World, but Yoshi's Woolly World, I really thought I was just going to like play it and be like, oh yeah, this is really good. Enjoy it, Emily. Bye. But I was like into it with her, like, oh, I want to play. Could you please die? And she wouldn't die, so I couldn't ever play. But it was really good.
All right,
definitely
good to know.
Looking forward
that's
to
one that
playing
I'll. It's that one and Toad's Treasure Tracker. There's a few of those that I've been really curious about with the Wii U games.
Yeah, I checked out Toad's Treasure Tracker when it first released, and it was pretty solid. It's a little bit more puzzly, so I didn't get into it as much because again I was like, oh, I gotta get this coin and I don't know how to get to it, and it's kind of pissing me off, so I don't want to play this anymore. But I could see you liking it more than me.
All right, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes.
All right, so what I want to do today is just kind of go through some gaming news. There's actually a surprising number of things that have happened in the gaming world over the last week or so. So I wanted to touch on some of these. There's a few that I think will be interesting enough for you and I to discuss, and a few that are just worth mentioning for anyone who's listening. In case you missed some of these stories. But a lot of neat things have happened, and some of them weren't necessarily headline makers, but they still were interesting things that happened. So first of all, I want to talk about PlayStation released a list of the top PSN downloads from 2015. So last week we discussed the NPD numbers of physical copies of games. So this is the top downloads just from the PlayStation Store in 2015. So without further ado, let's look at the PS4 games, the top PS4. Did you look at this list already?
I did not.
So some of these might be surprising to you. Some of them might not. It's top 20. So I'll just go down the list real quick of the top downloaded PS4 games in 2015. Number 1 was Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Shocker.
Number 2 was Grand Theft Auto 5. That one actually is surprising to me, just because it's a game that came out in 2013. Not because it's not good, or not because I do recognize it's considered to be the best version on the 2 new consoles. It's considered to be the best way to play, or on PC. But it's just crazy that a game that's been out that long still sold that well. But
yeah.
Number 3 was the Minecraft PS4 edition. Number 4 Star Wars Battlefront. So if any of you had any kind of deals running about Star Wars sales based on the physical copies and now the downloaded copies, it sounds like Battlefront absolutely did gangbusters in sales. Fallout 4 was number 5. Destiny was number 6, which is another game that's like, wow, it's been out for a while and it's still selling like crazy.
Now, is that the Taken King or regular Destiny?
That's just Destiny.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. At least, let me look down through here, because Taken King's mentioned in one of the other lists.
Oh, okay. Maybe
that might be listed as an add-on. That's an
yeah.
add-on.
Okay.
So just at least the game Destiny itself, number 6. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, number 7. Mortal Kombat X, number 8. Elder Scrolls Online is number 9, and Bloodborne's number 10. So those are your top 10 PS4 downloaded games in 2015. So does that surprise you at all? Those kind of the games you expected to hear me say?
I'm still surprised by some of the top 3 or 4 that are really 2014, 2013, 2012 games.
When did Minecraft officially?
I don't know. I've just hated that game since it launched, so I just.
What I don't understand. How is Minecraft still selling?
I don't know. It's.
I think everyone owns it now.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so cheap, and kids are so obsessed with it, and I can speak from experience because my 3 kids went through a phase, and my daughter still enjoys it, that they want to own it on every console. Like, so I bought it on the 360, then I paid the $5 to upgrade it to the Xbox One, then my daughter wanted it on the PS4, but I refused, then she wanted it on her phone, and I believe...
You're keeping it pure. Keep that system pure.
Yeah. I believe I bought it on the phone. I can't remember.
Okay.
Then she wanted.
How does it run on the
phone? I don't know. Okay? For kids, it's fine.
Okay.
They're able to play it. And then she wanted it on the PC, and I'm like, why do you need it on the PC? You got it on 9 other things. So it's the point I'm trying to make is that's just her. Other parents will just buy it. And I know other kids who have it on like 9 different systems. So it just sells like crazy. Not only to the masses, but then the masses are also buying it on multiple. It could be your PS4, your Xbox One, your phone, your computer.
I know that many people who listen to this show are also parents, so I'm curious to hear from you. Do you play Minecraft? And if not you, do your kids play Minecraft? What systems? Do they do the same thing Derek's family does? Do you buy it everywhere? The only time my kids have played Minecraft are, on other kids' systems, or maybe at our library if we go there. We haven't had a Minecraft version of any kind in our home.
When they did play it, they didn't like fall in love with it and beg you for it.
Yeah, and I just, I'm a full-grown. I'm a man, Derek. I said no. Yeah. I'm a man. All right, that was a weird insult. So here's some observations I made. Of course, Minecraft dominating on the PS3 list. Just as a side note, the PS3 downloaded games, Minecraft was number 1. And on the Vita downloads, Minecraft was number 2. So it was being downloaded everywhere. A Vita is the follow-up to the Neo Geo. You may have heard of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have some like black thing from Sony. It's like a small...
No, that's not important. You can throw that away.
I just use it for like to hold down papers.
Yeah, you don't need that. Destiny and Call of Duty dominated the add-ons downloads. So under the PS4 add-ons, that's a pretty boring list because most of it says Destiny or it says Call of Duty. Everything else says
that. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Taken King.
Taken King was by far number 1.
A lot of people buy the season pass for Call of Duty. So.
Yep, and then the Call of Duty, the Advanced Warfare downloads. Rocket League was number 9 with Supersonic Fury download. That was cool.
Sweet.
Cool to see that. PS3 was completely Call of Duty with a few Destiny expansions at the bottom. Let me see if there's anything else we want to pull out of here. I thought Batman and Metal Gear Solid 5 finished a little lower than I expected on that list, just because of the way they marketed to me as a frequent gamer online who's looking in the Sony store. I felt like I saw those 2 games promoted and highlighted a ton. And in 2015, let's see, Batman is number 17. Behind games like Battlefield 4,
Wow.
Battlefield Hardline even. Dying Light was number 11. Niche games like Bloodborne, even Witcher 3. Like, seeing all those games above Batman, to me, was just a little surprising. And then Metal Gear Solid 5 finished in the 20th spot, which was also a little bit surprising. You know, behind Resident Evil, the remaster.
I mean, most of the people I know bought it physical.
Okay.
But
all right.
I don't know. I don't understand why. I don't know. I would think those would be higher.
Yeah, I think
Top
if you
10.
combine these lists, the order would look a lot different, and maybe Batman and Metal Gear would be, you know, in those top fields. And that's not saying these games aren't as good as the other games. Obviously, we're just talking about sales here for downloads. The last thing I'll point out is, of course, I'm a big fan of the PlayStation Classics, and one of my favorite games of all time, Suikoden 2, placed number 9 on the PS Classics download list, which I'm really excited about.
Guess who forgot to buy Suikoden 2?
When it was like
and
$2?
3, because I had them both in my cart, and it was a total of like $6 for both.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot to purchase them.
I have a feeling they'll be on sale again.
They will. It just kind of sucks because
Next time, don't hesitate.
I wanted to grab those.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on past that. Kind of interesting for those of you who haven't seen it. You can head on over. It's not just on the PlayStation blog. You can find their list of downloaded games from 2015. All right, the next topic or the next news item I think is something that would interest you as a regular Rocket League player. Did you get a chance to read at all about their announcement for the February update?
No, I read what you had written in about, like something about the your rankings, your bronze, silver, and gold.
Yep.
So the funny thing is before we started recording this podcast, I actually had read about this, and I went on to Rocket League, and I was like, all right, let me see which one am I ranked the highest in. And right now in 3v3, I think it's standard, I'm bronze level 3. So I'm like, I'm not sure, but I think after bronze 3 you go to silver.
Yeah, you go to silver 1. Yep.
Alright, so that was my goal. I was like, alright, let's get to silver before February. So first match, I log in, we score a goal, we're up 1-0. The other team scores a goal, 1-1. And
That's
this
okay.
is like a
recover.
minute in. This is a minute in. And then all of a sudden, explosion. Blah, 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 left the match. I'm like, what the hell? Alright, so we're down 1. 5 seconds later, explosion. Blah, 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 left the match. And then the other guy from the other team writes in 3v1? Question mark? I'm like, I type in WTF. Are you serious? I'm trying to get to silver, and the first game I play, it's 1-1, and within a minute of the match, the two of them quit. Now the match ended up finishing 4-3, which makes it sound like, oh wow, Derek, you did good, and you stayed in the game even though you lost. But really, the guys I was playing against were super cool. Once they went up 4-1. They kind of helped me score the next 2 goals.
Yeah, that's happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
It's nice to run into nice people online because usually everyone is just
Every
really
night
mean.
I run into one fight, and I've got a big mouth, and I like to run it. So if I think people are jerks, I kind of go after them. But these 3 guys I played were super cool. They even thanked me at the end of the match for hanging in there and playing, so I thought that was cool.
Nice.
But anyways, my road to silver was rough because the first 3 matches I played, I lost tonight.
Well, and I think even people who play really good games, game after game, you can still just get a bad draw of luck where you just get with bad teams, or you just happen to lose really close games, and next thing you know, you can lose a whole bunch of points. That's happened to me, even on just kind of a standard night when I'm not playing well, or if I am playing well. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes your team just loses.
As a person who's played a lot of sports, obviously for fun, I'm not a professional athlete. I'll use basketball as an example, but it can be applied to any sport. There would be nights when I would play basketball and nobody could stop me on the court. The hoop was just huge. I could hit any shot I wanted.
Yeah.
It didn't matter who was defending me. It was just one of those nights. And then the very next night, I could go into with the same type of confidence, going, man, I scored 20 points or whatever I did. Nobody can stop me, and I could go 0 for 10. Same player, same shot. I didn't change my shot. Same team. It doesn't matter who's defending me. And that's kind of what Rocket League is. I'm a pretty good Rocket League player. I'm not going to say I'm the greatest.
No,
I'm a solid player.
Yeah.
But in one game, I'll score 5 goals without a problem. I'll be on cue, on target. Everything will just... The ball will bounce where I need it to bounce for me to play it. And then I'll go 2 games without scoring a goal. And I'm like... And I, again, because I have a bad temper, I'm freaking out like, you suck, you're the worst player. Why can't you score? And then the next game, I'll score 4 goals.
You know, I will say this. It is nice that your anger and your hatred are shared not only with others, but also with yourself. You know, you spread it out pretty evenly.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely fair on that. And I'm passing it down to my sons, who actually had their first basketball game tonight. Both of them played in their own
How'd it go?
It was rough. They were actually not that bad for their first game. It's more of them not understanding where to be, how to play, that type of stuff. So I was trying to teach them.
Are you their coach? Because I know you coach football.
No, I coach football, but I didn't coach them on this. And all I was trying to do, because I can be mean, I can be rude. So I made sure my tone was very calm, and I made sure maybe this is my management skills coming in, that when I approached them, I gave them the positive feedback first. Like, hey, Eli, you're doing really good tonight. So the first time I go up to Eli and I start out with, you're doing really good, he turns and looks at me and he kind of swings at me a little bit and gives me an evil face and tells me, go away.
Because he knew what was coming.
Yeah, he knew I was gonna just try to talk to him about it.
You need to start just dropping a few. You're doing great tonight, and then walking away, because that kid. He's got your timing.
What I was gonna have to do.
He's got your pattern.
So that's actually what I ended up doing. I was like, I just wanted to tell you you're doing good, even though inside I was going, well, I want to tell you need to do a pump fake, and then when the kid jumps, you need to wait, set your feet, and then shoot it and score. But he wasn't having any of that. Yeah. And then I got the same. Because the story's going way too long. I got the same thing from Ian. I tried to talk to him, Ian, the 9-year-old, and I was like, "Hey, Ian, you're doing a great job." Shut it, Dad. Like, oh.
Well, no, but the comparison really works because, again, whether it's basketball, and I played a little bit of basketball, not a lot. I played a lot of soccer though up through the end of high school, and I had the same thing. Certain games where I'm just on, like for whatever reason, I'm just getting to the ball faster, and I'm just connecting on my shots and clears a lot better. And other games, I'm like, how did I miss that? Same thing applies to Rocket League. There's times when timing's just on, reaction time's good, and other times when I look like an idiot on the replay right in front of everybody, and then someone sends me a message that I need to uninstall as soon as possible. So those things happen, and so that's why this is interesting. What they're doing, for those of you who haven't heard, their update in February, which I don't think they've detailed when it's coming, they're going to start giving access to a special crown based on your ranking, based on your highest available ranking. So, for example, my highest available ranking would be in doubles. I think I'm on silver 2 in doubles. I'm on silver 1 in singles, and then I'm on bronze 3 in the 2 threes. So even though I'm on bronze in those two, because I've got silver somewhere, I'll get a silver crown. Which, to me, the fact that those are ones that I played really well early on, and I haven't played them a lot since because I don't want to mess up my ranking. I want to keep that silver ranking. Well, but the idea of getting to gold, like going up through 3 levels of silver and then going up through 3 levels of gold to platinum, like that's an actual, like, that skill level makes me angry. Like, there's no need for that type of skill level. Because I feel like people playing at this higher bronze, lower silver level, they're all amazing players that are right on the same tier as me. I'm as good as I'll ever get at that game. And there's people who are just way, way, way better. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think I've accepted that the level I'm at, while I might get a little bit better, I doubt I'll go much further.
Yeah, which makes it fun to play with friends. But when it comes to real competition, I'll save that for watching the pros on YouTube. They're adding tiers to their items, almost in the style of a loot game or like an MMO, where they'll have Common items are listed as gray, that pretty much everyone gets. Then they'll have premium items that are colored green. I don't know if it's going to be on the text for the description or what, but somehow it's going to be highlighted green, and that's going to be items that you get through your paid DLC. So if you bought the Back to the Future DLC or the Supersonic Fury or the Chaos, if you bought any of these DLC packs, you're going to have premium items that are green, and I think it's going to be existing things you already had will now have a green tint to them. And then they're going to have limited items that are orange. So if you played during Halloween, you got some of the pumpkin and Halloween themed items, and if you played during Christmas, you got the the Rudolph antlers and the Christmas tree and all the the presents coming out of the boost in the back of your vehicle, whatever else. So yeah, so their limited items are orange, and the last one are light blue items, which they're calling uncommon, which are rarely earned, and they're only for online matches. And the more you play, the higher your chances are of scoring those items. So kind of an interesting thing they're doing there to make, I'm guessing they're trying to create some kind of like a loot grind almost for some of their items to kind of give you incentive to play other than working on your rank. So kind of an interesting idea.
Makes me wonder if down the road, obviously not anytime soon, if they're going to try to do like a Destiny thing where you can actually start to level up your cars.
Yeah.
And maybe you get extra jump on a car, or
right.
One car's a little bit faster than another one because you've upgraded it. I'm just curious if they would do something.
Yeah,
like
I'm curious if they will too, and I'm actually worried if they do that because I think the game is so perfectly balanced right now. That type of thing I think would make me quickly lose interest, at least in the competitive online space. With friends, probably still be fine, but yeah, who knows? We'll see. We'll see what they do. That's coming out in February. And last note about Rocket League, when it does release for Xbox next month, and we'll talk about that when it comes out, they've announced additional unique content in addition to the Halo and Gears of War vehicles and other cosmetic things they're adding. They've now added the Sunset Overdrive themes to some of the cosmetic things with the antenna topper, with the boost, and I think maybe with some paint. So yeah, it's kind of neat.
I'm really
that
excited
Xbox
about all
owners,
these
when
little.
They get this game, they're gonna have some really unique stuff to enjoy when it comes out.
I think they got Gears of War, some Halo stuff. So I plan on buying Rocket League on my Xbox One. So any of you.
Oh, I thought you were saying I plan on buying Tim an Xbox One. I got real excited.
Oh yeah. I actually already shipped it.
Oh, sweet.
So you should be.
It's gonna pass that sandwich that I sent you a few months ago in the mail.
But yeah, I plan on buying Rocket League on the Xbox One, so if any listeners are Xbox One only owners, and you are going to get it and want a partner who is pretty good, hit me up. I'm not going to give you my Xbox Live gamer tag, so I don't know how you're going to hit me up, but I'm not going to give it to you.
All right, that was like passively aggressive. That was really odd. But thank you for sharing that.
No, but I do think the little cosmetic things are cool for the Xbox.
How about this? If you want to game with either of us online, whether it's through PS4, Xbox One, whatever, feel free to go to our website, fathersofthegrind.com, and submit a contact form. Just say, hey, listen, here's my tags for the systems that I use.
What we should do is we should add ours to the website.
Let's do that. Go to the website. I'll add them on there. Yep.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll add my Xbox, Wii U,
there you
3DS, all that crap.
There you go. When this episode is up, all you have to do is go to the website and look for this post for episode 3, and we'll put that in the details for the episode. That's a good idea.
All right.
All right, so let's talk about Nintendo NX. So the Wii U is out right now, and it might as well be dead in the water because of the amount of momentum and talk and excitement that's being generated for the Nintendo NX system. A couple pieces of news. You know what? I wouldn't call it news. A few rumors have surfaced this week. There's two that I want to talk about. One of them, the rumor came out that it may work with smartphones, PCs, and other competing consoles in some way. Some kind of communication that might happen there. This was an article from, let's see, I want to say Wall Street Journal reporter. I could be wrong about that. Let me look here. Oh, okay, I don't see it. Anyway, it's been reported and much talked about this past week. I'm sure you've heard some of the chatter about that.
Yes.
And in addition to that, before I get your thoughts on that report in particular, they also just today I saw news that came out about the portable part of the NX might release at the end of this year, 2016, while its console counterpart will arrive in 2017. That's another rumor that just recently came out. And alongside that rumor, they're saying that AR it might be one of the major features of the system. So, any general thoughts on that, or are they all just rumors and you're just going to wait to hear official word?
I mean, I even posted about this today on the Platinum Achievement Facebook group. I just basically said no news is now news. Somebody's just speculating something and now we're reporting it. My thoughts, though, on what is being reported, because obviously there's a chance this could be accurate, is I saw, first of all, before I go into my thoughts, I saw a few people react to my post and say, well, I think it's kind of ridiculous that in 2016, Nintendo's going to now release a new portable device when they just a little over a year ago released the new Nintendo 3DS XL.
Okay.
My thinking is, I have no issue with this. When I bought the Nintendo new 3DS XL, I bought that product. Right. Whatever Nintendo's going to release, whether it's a handheld or not, is obviously tied to their console. And it's going to be completely separate. It's going to have a different library. So I don't get upset when companies do stuff like that. Nintendo is not misleading us. They're not taking advantage of us. They released a quality product, although their exclusives for the new Nintendo 3DS XL are ridiculous at this point. But it's still a quality handheld that they've released. I bought it. It has a great library, and whatever they're going to do on this new one is going to have its own separate great library. Now, my thinking, if you tie all these rumors together, I wouldn't be surprised if this portable device is a smartphone, a Nintendo smartphone, that has the ability to play Nintendo games and communicate through, or go to the internet, do all the things your iPhone would do, but it's a Nintendo portable Nintendo phone, and then it will be able to, or it will be compatible with their console launch, which I think their console will be more powerful than a PS4 and an Xbox One.
Well, and something to keep in mind to kind of answer those who would say, I can't believe they would do this. They just put out the new 3DS XL. I believe that came out, I want to say last spring, maybe February?
It was March, I believe, because Xenoblade 3D came out in April, and I think that came out a month after I got the new 3DS.
Okay, so that's been out for almost a year. Mm-hmm. So by the time, if this rumor were to prove to be true, which personally I highly doubt, but if they did drop the portable side of this NX system this fall, that's about 18 months removed. That's not exactly that off from what they did between the DSi XL and the 3DS.
This so is normal business.
I mean, that's just the way it goes. You upgrade your hardware and then you release it when it's ready and when it makes sense for your company to make money. I mean, the new 3DS XL is simply an expansion and improvement on the 3DS XL. Now, I remember thinking that that's not the best way to put this out because now you've created, like with the DSi, you could still play old DS games on it, and there wasn't anything coming out for the DSi that DS games couldn't play except for downloadable stuff because the DS couldn't download stuff. So that to me that was kind of it didn't feel like a huge slap in the face to anybody who decided not to upgrade. With this new 3DS XL, they haven't released a ton of games for it, but it does kind of tell the original 3DS audience you're probably going to miss out on a couple of high profile games. So to me it wasn't the smartest thing to release anyway, but that being said, it does not feel like a major pillar Nintendo release. So to me, the 3DS came out in 2011. If they release a new portable that's going to connect to their new system, whether it's this year or even in 2017, I say more power to them. I'm curious to see what their next thing is. So, but who knows?
I mean, whatever
none of this
they
might
do,
be. I mean, they might all be false. So
whatever they do, I'm going to be excited for. In fact, I'm already plotting and planning and doing stuff right now on what I'm going to trade in. I may even be trading in my extra PS4 soon, just to get some extra trade-in credit, so I have the ability to get a PlayStation VR or the new Nintendo NX or whatever it's going to be called.
You could always sell that on Craigslist. That way you could risk, like being kidnapped and whatever else might happen
I
to
may
you.
do that.
Yeah.
I may do that.
I mean, have you ever been kidnapped?
A few times.
Oh, dude. It's the
They
best.
always return me, though.
It's the best.
Could be the fact that I have aggressive opinions about things and they get tired.
You
of
start
hearing me.
insulting your kidnappers to like, man, this guy's rude. Get him out of here.
Yeah, I get kidnapped and they're like, dude, do you like that game Axiom Verge? Let me tell you what a piece of shit that is. And they're like, alright, send this guy back.
Like, he's a graphics whore. Get him out. All right. This is pretty interesting, I thought. So I wanted to make sure we highlighted this. There's a Norwegian gamer. He goes by the tag multitasker on Reddit. He is currently on year 3 of trying to complete every game he can that's available on Steam.
Alright, so let me, before you go any further,
Yeah.
because I didn't read about this, but I had heard about it.
Okay.
Okay, how is that possible when every week new games are coming out on Steam? Like, tons
Totally
of new
agree.
games. Not like, oh, one game's releasing, so eventually you can catch up if you finish 2 a week, and only
Right.
one's releasing, you'll eventually catch up. How is that going to even happen?
To me, it's an impossible task. Just the sheer math, the sheer numbers don't make sense. But I wonder. I do know that there are certain rules that are in place, and they didn't specify this. But I would highly doubt that things that are still in beta or that are in the green light stage, things that are not officially released, even if they're available. Like for example, a game like Prison Architect, which we'll talk about in a bit. That game was in kind of pre-release. Early access, they call it, on Steam for a long time. So I think those kind of games aren't
Don't
qualified.
count. Okay.
And so that does trim out, if any of you are on Steam, that trims out a ton of games. So I think that's part of it. He's also focusing right now on single player games, so he might end up just landing on doing only single player. That trims out a bunch. Who knows? I mean, so here are the rules that he set up for himself. He records all his progress on YouTube, so if anyone ever calls him out on not doing it the legit way, he's got it all recorded, so that you can go back and see. He limits himself to 3 games at a time, just so he can focus on each one, and as soon as he finishes one, he uninstalls it and installs the next one. He says he is currently 20% complete, and he has some images up that he's posted on Reddit that show, the big list of games and kind of how he's rated them as he's gone through. But at 20% complete, I did the math on it, and this is just on a very small estimate on how many games that he's probably targeting on Steam. If he goes at this current rate, and there are no additional games that ever come out again on Steam, it would take him 12 more years.
That's ridiculous.
So he either needs to pick up the pace, or perhaps focus in his goals onto a smaller subset of games on Steam, which would still be impressive. But anyway, all that being said, it's kind of interesting he's trying to do it. He's one of the reasons I want to talk about it too is because he's married, he's got a full-time job, he's got a 2-year-old son with another on the way. So I mean, I can relate to trying to play games and enjoy one of my favorite hobbies while also having a bunch of other responsibilities. So I can see why he's only slowly working his way through this library. But anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know about you guys, but I have a ton of games on my Steam library that a few of them I haven't even opened, installed yet. They're just sitting there because I bought them during a sale. They're just sitting there. And a few others that I've only opened or tried once or twice. And then, my computer said bye-bye. And so until the new computer comes into the picture, my Steam library is going to sit untouched. So...
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I find that to be an impossible task, and one that it almost feels like it's just a publicity stunt. I don't know the guy, never read about him, never seen him. Maybe he legit wants to do this, but it seems more like he knows this is impossible, but he'll get some publicity for saying he's going to do it.
In that sense, it's working, and I think the publicity didn't really pick up until he really made some headway on getting... I mean, being 20% through it by itself is impressive. Being on year 3, not giving up yet, that's impressive. So I think that's probably why it's being talked about. So
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so good luck to you, multitasker. Maybe I don't know, maybe if he teams up with other gamers to knock them all out. So as a team, they finish all games. That would be impressive too. If he gets other people.
I hope he fails, to be honest with you.
Well, he's looking like he's going to, so...
And then gets judged
But still, more power to him. Congratulations for all the the publicity you're getting. All right. Are you a football fan?
Nope, hate it.
Do you like college football? Since you hate football, do you like college football?
Nope. I mean, my profile picture is Jim Harbaugh, but I absolutely hate college football.
That seems like a valid follow-up, right? If someone says they don't like a sport, ask if they like a specific part of the sport.
Yes,
Do you
I
like basketball?
absolutely
Hate it.
love
What about the NBA? You're like, that just doesn't-
college football?
All right, so college football. I know you're a big college football fan. You love Ohio State.
Yeah, burn the state.
Um,
Burn it.
so if you love college football, and if you're anything like me, because I do too, I love college football, then you used to love playing the yearly release of NCAA college football.
Yes,
from EA
that
Sports.
was my favorite franchise for
Yeah.
years.
It was great. And as anyone who played those games, even semi-regularly, or if you even follow news in general, you know that in, I want to say it was 2013, was the last game that they've released in that series. Because of a series of
Do you
court
know
cases.
who was on the
and-
cover?
I do know who was on the cover. Shoelace Robinson, right? Was that his nickname? Shoelace?
Denard Shoelace Robinson, my
Yeah.
favorite player.
Yeah,
of all
very
time.
dynamic player. Now he's the backup running back for the Jaguars, which is impressive for a quarterback to be in that position now.
Yeah, he's actually pretty impressive. Like, whenever he starts, he usually gets anywhere from 75 to 100 yards per game. I track him still. He's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah, no, he's good. So yeah, he was the last one on the cover. I actually have that for the Xbox 360 as a downloaded title because whenever I get that itch to play some college games, and really I loved doing the dynasties where you pick a team, especially like a low-level team with 2 or 3 stars, and you work on the recruiting and you start building up your school over the seasons. Like that has a real legitimate RPG flavor to it, where you're basically running the stats and running recruiting and trying to use the resources you have available, and it's great. I love the NCAA games because, in and of themselves, as just at its bare bones, at its very simplistic state, it is a fun football game. But then they've padded it over the years with all these really great systems and tools and ways that you can become this coach, or even in some cases the star player that comes out of high school to play. It's just a lot of fun. I've always loved the NCAA games. So this piece of news is about a certain former football player, played for Ohio State. I'm not kidding. He did play for Ohio State. But he is a very popular ESPN football analyst, and he's a color commentator for many of their major weekly games during the football season. He was being interviewed during this past football season by SECCountry.com. Not really a website that I would frequent, but I got the link from a gaming site. But this is Kirk Herbstreit, and for those of you who don't know, even if you just glance on ESPN every once in a while over a weekend during football season, you'll probably see him. He's on there all the time. And so he was being interviewed, and they were talking about college football and all sorts of issues and other things. But then the question came up about the NCAA football games. And he actually was quoted as saying that Ed O'Bannon, who was once a standout player for UCLA, I believe a basketball player, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
that Ed O'Bannon, in his case against the NCAA for his likeness being used without his permission, without compensation, he, and I quote, took that game away from us. And then Herbstreit says he probably felt as devastated or more devastated than anybody in the country that O'Bannon would take this game away from us. So I thought that was pretty straightforward. Like, he was not ashamed at all. He didn't hesitate at all to point the finger at Ed O'Bannon for taking it to the extremes that he did. Now, he's not the only one that's trying to say these games need to make a comeback, and they should make a comeback. There's also a writer named Jason Belzer from Forbes.com, and he wrote that with the right deals in place to somehow, settle down these court cases that are all, I think some of them even still being worked through, that this game could come back if the right
After
deals are in
Ed
place.
did that, other people started popping in and trying to do the exact same thing and get a piece of the pie. So if all they have to do, and maybe I'm a little uneducated in this, but it seems pretty simple. They just need to work out a deal with either the NCAA or with certain schools, which I heard that was what they were going to do. They were just going to get like the top schools, like the Michigans, the Penn States, the state downstairs, Florida State, Florida, all them, and they were going to get a contract with them. And then they would create their teams, and then all they have to do is not make the characters look like the players at all.
Okay.
Which, you know what's funny is Denard Robinson was on the cover, and whenever he was in the NCAA game, and this bothered me because this is back when I wanted them to look like the players, because that is what they tried to do. They never made Denard Robinson look like Denard Robinson. He never even had dreads. I was lucky he was black. He had short hair. I mean, it frustrated me.
That's a tragedy right there.
Yes, it made me mad. I had to go change him every year.
Hey, have your son go in and create a character. He's good at that.
Oh, God.
So to me this was interesting because I've seen, and part of the article as well went on where Kirk Herbstreit said like he really thinks this could be solved as simple as offering any player that's having their likeness in the game, just offering them a free copy of the game or something to that effect, and that would make most players happy. So I don't know if it's really that simple or not. But I suppose for 18, 19, 20-year-old
I was
college
going to
student,
say, I guarantee you what he's getting at is if, and the only reason why Ed O'Bannon did this is because he's washed up and he's worthless, and so now he's just trying to make a quick buck off his past. But I guarantee you if you ask 17, 18-year-old Ed O'Bannon, hey, would you like to be in this college basketball game? Would you like me to make this character or this player look like you and give it your stats? I guarantee he would have said, yes, please.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to, especially what athlete wouldn't want to play as themselves in a game?
Sure, you can use my likeness, but now hand over millions of dollars. He would never do that. He would have been like, yeah, I would absolutely love
And I think that's
Herbstreit's
argument, and I think that's kind of what he was saying, is that most kids are excited enough to be in those games, and then if you were to be like, listen, as compensation for being, letting us use your likeness in the game, even without your name, just your number and kind of what you look like and your stats, that kind of thing, we'll let you have a free copy of the game. If some kind of deal like that were put in place, and I know I'm really simplifying what would probably be a major legal deal, it would just be cool if they figured out some way to bring back that series. So, and it was neat to see someone who's so outspoken and has got such a loud voice in the college football world kind of bring that back up. It's not forgotten yet, even though it's been 2 years.
I will say this, as
3 years. 3 years.
As a Buckeye hater, like I hate the Buckeyes with all my heart.
Right.
Kirk Herbstreit is, if not the best, one of the best sports analysis I've ever seen.
I gotta agree with you.
He's really good, and I think my favorite part about him, again, even though he's a Buckeye, is he's extremely fair and balanced. Like, he's never biased. If Ohio State is not as good as another team, he'll say it.
Yeah.
If they're better, he'll say it. I mean, if Michigan's better, he'll say it.
Who doesn't do as good of a job being objective? Is the guy on the other side of the desk from that school up north.
Oh, yeah. I have to admit, he's terrible. Desmond.
Yeah.
As much as I love him, he's too much like Michigan can do no wrong.
Yep.
And
yep. It's like listening to Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio. Mike Golick, he's always Notre Dame. But anyway.
No,
all right, we digress into sports talk here. Fathers of the Grind sports talk. But anyway,
Hey, that could be another podcast. We'll just record that the next night.
Let's just do it tonight after this is over. We got time.
Sure, our wives would love us.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's get back to gaming talk. Although that was gaming talk, but we'll shift out of sports a little bit. And for those of you who were excited when they announced Phantom Dust for the Xbox, news came out that it may not be dead after all. It looks like Microsoft has filed for a new trademark for the title. Although no developer has been attached yet, it's still looking hopeful that they filed for a new trademark for Phantom Dust. So no official news other than they filed for that trademark. So that could be good for those of you who are excited for that Phantom Dust.
I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I am intrigued. I never played the original, but I remember when they announced it at E3, I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very short video, but that video looked kind of neat.
And I was like, well, why did I never play the original? And then I went back and looked at some reviews and videos, and I was like, this actually looks pretty cool. So yeah, I was interested.
Yeah,
and
so we'll see if that maybe that's something that comes up this year as an announcement. Who knows? But yeah, so Phantom Dust may not be dead after all. And speaking of Xbox One, there is a system update that is rolling out for everyone this week. If you're part of the preview audience for Xbox Live, then you have had access since January 19th. There's a whole bunch of features that are being updated. For example, and some of these, for those of you who have a PS4 or maybe if you use Steam, some of these features sound like things that should have already been in place. But the reality is, when you have an online platform like PSN or like Xbox Live, there are going to be features that have to be set aside in lieu of other things. And so none of these features to me are things that I would scoff at, like, oh, you can already do that on PlayStation, or oh, you can already do that on PC. Like, I'm glad that the online experience is being improved. So here's a short list of things that are being added. You can see who's in a party before joining. There's going to be a gamer score leaderboard, which is kind of cool. You can compare your scores with friends. You can compare games, game to game. You can compare to a larger group of gamers as well, in addition to your friends, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of neat. You can rearrange your pins on the home screen. There's going to be a way to update your activity feed to see most recent activity. There's now going to be joinable Twitch broadcasts right there from your home screen. There's going to be improvements to suggested friends, where they're actually going to explain to you why this friend was suggested. They will also give you the ability to hide games from the ready-to-install list. And this is something that I think would be nice for PlayStation 4, is when you have a beta or a demo that's just sitting in your games library list, you don't want to see that anymore. Like, I don't need to see the Rainbow Six or Call of Duty betas or Destiny demo or any of those things.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just my OCD or whatever, but I always want to delete that stuff, and it makes me angry that I can't do it.
Yep. So that's kind of neat. They're updating that. So if you have an Xbox and you go to your ready to install list, you should be able to hide those games from that list, so that you don't have to look at it. You don't have to look at that garbage anymore. And then there's various improvements to the Xbox app that you can get on other devices, whether it's on your PC or your tablet. So, yep, a bunch of updates coming to Xbox One stuff. So be excited.
Well, and also they released a backwards compatibility list that's coming soon, if not already. I'm not up to date on that, but I'll just name a couple of the bigger games, or the ones that interested me. But The Witcher 2 is now free on your Xbox 360, and it's backwards, and it's backwards compatible for the Xbox One. So you have the next 2 weeks that you can either go on XboxLive.com or just log into your 360 and purchase the game for free, and then you can download it on your Xbox One. They're also releasing Soul Calibur. I'm a huge Soul Calibur fan. Counter-Strike Global Offensive is also coming to the Xbox One through the backwards compatibility. And there's about 7 or 8 more other games, smaller titles, but still quality titles that are coming. So that list keeps growing.
Nice. All right, so let's see what PlayStation is doing. For those of you who remember, a little bit ago there was a PlayStation Network outage. I think that was on January 4th. Does that sound right to you? I think it was the 4th or 5th.
I believe so. I think it was the 4th.
I don't even think it lasted the full
You might need to ask Kaz Harai.
I will. I'll go. Let's pull up Kaz's Twitter feed again.
Fan favorite.
So people, of course, got really upset. Although Kaz said it was to help people get outside, to help them with their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Kaz was thinking about that.
But in response to that outage, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen as like a peace offering to people who suffered during the outage. Sony is offering their PlayStation Plus subscribers 1 free day of PS Plus in response to the outage. So when you get on there, you used to see a notification that says redeem your free day, and you click OK, and then they add 24 hours to the end of whenever your subscription's set to expire.
All right, so here's I had to say something about this. Okay, so first of all, when this happened on January 4th, I did not care. I didn't make a big deal out of it.
Yep.
I probably logged in my Xbox One, or I may have not even played games that day. I just didn't care. I don't remember it affecting me at all. So I completely forgot about it. I didn't care. When I logged into my PS4 recently and got that message from Sony,
Yeah.
I was actually angry that I got that. Like, I was actually mad that they gave me a day.
Yeah, it's almost offensive. Like, I'm not an idiot. Don't give me a day.
I'm like, just either, here's your options. Either let me just forget about it and don't offer me anything. I would have been happy that way. Or, at minimum, give me a 1 week. That's the minimum.
Yeah.
Because I would like to say, oh, at least give me a month, but, then what if it goes out for 3 or 4 hours, where do you draw the line? But I
Yeah.
don't think anything under a week should ever be given out.
Or an even easier solution that would have made customers happy and not kind of scoff at that offering is if they could have found a game that is perpetually on sale, like think something like a Qbert or something like that no one cares about, but they could just make something free. Like, hey, this is going to be free for the next week if you want to get it. This is our way of saying sorry or whatever. I do think that would have been, if they actually were doing this to kind of appease their audience and make people, settle down a little bit, I think an easier fix would have been to find a game on there that's going to cost them next to nothing to make it free for a few days and do that instead. But they went the route of, to me, one of the most sarcastic responses to an issue that I've ever seen in my life. One free day.
I really don't even think it was sarcasm. Although
I think it was. I really wish that one of the options they had at the bottom was either press X to accept or press circle to tell us to keep our damn day, or something like that. Like it's so useless. It's one of the most useless things I've ever seen. But I accept.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I accepted it. I'll take my day.
I took
it's
my
still,
day
Yeah.
because I was like, okay, but at the same time, like I said, just let me forget about it. Don't send me something 2 weeks later saying, oh, we feel so bad that we are down for a day. Here's a day on us. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Yeah. So when my PlayStation Plus subscription automatically renews 1 day later than I thought it would, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, you're gonna definitely regret bashing Sony
Oh gosh.
when that happens.
All
Now
right,
this next story, and I am going to maneuver us over to it.
Okay.
Because it's one that I care about deeply.
Let's hear it.
Because I don't even know if I have it pre-ordered anymore. GameStop is canceling pre-orders for Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition. Now, this only applies to pre-orders made after November 18th. A glitch in the system allowed more than what the stores were allocated to be pre-ordered. Now, the reason why this affects me is I have pre-ordered the special edition. I do not have a clue when I pre-ordered it. I just know I went into the store. I don't even know when I did it. I have no idea. I'm going to say it was before November 18th, but I really don't know.
And so you definitely got the special edition, right? That comes with like the art
Yes.
book. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a huge, like a fat Fire Emblem fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they released all the information on this, Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition comes with all 3 of the games. It comes with the 2 games that are being released on the same day, and then it comes out with the, I believe it's called Revelations.
Yeah, it's like the DLC story. It's like it's the third story. It's going to be a DLC.
It's like a $20 expansion type deal.
So this
So it comes with all
would
3
have
of
given you all 3 of those, and then also some extras, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And some extra, like, little special edition, like, art books and stuff like that. So I was
Some
like,
kind of keychain or
yes.
something, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I was sold on it. So I went in and pre-ordered. I'm guessing, since I haven't gotten a phone call or a text or an email, I'm still good to go. But I am going to need to check, which I will be going to GameStop tomorrow to trade in games. So I will be checking to make sure I still have it. But I will be so bummed if I am canceled.
Yeah, because I do know they still have collector's editions available at other locations, maybe even including GameStop. But those special kind of freebies for the pre-order bonuses, those you'd miss out on. So yeah, so if that's your thing, then that's totally a bummer. If you have pre-ordered Fire Emblem Fates from GameStop, especially if you got that special edition, I would say in any case, if you've pre-ordered Fire Emblem, just double check wherever you pre-ordered it that it's still good to go.
Yep.
So yeah.
I mean, the good news from that, and maybe I'm looking into it too much, is it looks like Fire Emblem Fates is pre-ordering well.
Yes.
Which makes me happy because
Me
I
too.
am really a big Fire Emblem fan. It's just everything that I love about.
What's just off the top of your head? Do you have one that stands out as your favorite in the series, or is Awakening really the? Is that the only one you've played, or have you played the other ones?
I mean, I've played the other ones a little bit, but Awakening is the one that made me a fanboy because I fell in love with everything about it. And it actually made me go buy the Wii Radiant Dawn, I believe it is.
Yep, Radiant Dawn.
So I went and bought Radiant Dawn from GameStop used, overpriced, and then I kept hunting the GameCube version or GameCube copy, but it got ridiculous. It was hundreds of dollars.
The Path
eBay.
of Radiance for the GameCube.
Yeah, so I passed on that.
So here's
but
my
I did
experience
wanna
with
get
Fire Emblem. I picked them up on the Game Boy Advance when they were released. They had the original one was just called Fire Emblem.
I do have that one. Yeah.
Which I believe was on the Super Nintendo in Japan only way back in the day. And then they put it out in the Game Boy Advance. Amazing game. But then they put out the second one, which I want to say was called The Sacred Stones. Does that sound right?
Is it the Dragon Stones? Or is
No,
that a different one?
that was a DS one called Shadow Dragon. They had two
Shadow
for the Game
Dragon.
Boy Advance, and I think the second one's called Sacred Stones. I think that one's still one of my favorites, just as far as story and just the way it played. But all of them I think I've played all of them that have come to the U.S. I've played Fire Emblem, played Sacred Stones. I played the GameCube one. I owned Path of Radiance for a while, and then in a moment of needing money to buy other games, I ended up selling it. And yes, I sold it on Craigslist, but I made $90 on it because it's pretty rare. And now,
why didn't you sell it to me for $60?
Now I'm really annoyed that I didn't keep it though. Not only because I could have sold it to you for $160,
$60.
but also just because I wish I would have kept it, just for the sake of keeping games that are like my favorite. Then I played the DS one, Shadow Dragon. That was really good. My cartridge is missing. I'm 99% sure my nephew has it or had it, and it's now gone. But
Track them down.
that's okay. I still love you a little bit. And then, of course, loved the 3DS Fire Emblem Awakening. That one and Sacred Stones are probably my two favorites. I loved the systems they put into that game. So, Fire Emblem Fates, if I had been thinking more clearly when we talked about our most anticipated games, I think that should have been a mention of mine of a game that's coming out, because now that I'm reading more about it and seeing the way the three stories are going to unfold, I am really excited for that. I can't wait for it. So
I really am excited. Like, that's why I already had it paid off. So even though I also didn't mention it, it's mainly because I don't really talk about handheld games much. But Fire Emblem games are at that level of AAA console games for me. Like, I get really excited for. I'm really excited for this launch.
Yeah, I like those games. I like that they're very challenging. I like the permadeath situation where characters can die, and it's actually a sad moment when you lose them. And so yeah, I like that stuff.
Especially since, at least for Awakening, there were so many characters I liked. It wasn't I would get a new character and be like, well, I don't really care if you die. Every one I would get, I'd be like, I want to use them, and I don't want you to die, and so on.
Yeah. Well, by the way, one thing I did in Awakening, and I think many people probably did it, but I just felt really smart, because certain characters can get married and then have offspring, and they become characters that join your party, and they kind of take some of their skills and traits on. Mm-hmm. If you match up the right people and have given them the right skills, then you can pretty much stack your group with a bunch of people that have that. I'm blanking out on the name of the move right now. There's a move that lets you, as soon as you kill somebody, you get to instantly go again. You get a brand new turn. I forget the name of it.
I don't know.
The Dark Riders are the ones who can learn it. So if they're a Pegasus Rider and then they upgrade to a Dark Rider and get to level 13 or 14, I only know this because I grinded so many characters. Fathers of the Grind. I grinded so many characters to that Dark Rider level to earn that move, and then I would have them, have their offspring, their kid would come up, and then they would have that move, and they could be a totally different class. But they would have the ability, if they finished off an enemy, then they got to go again right away. That is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And not just that, that took some extra work and planning on my part, but the way that they put together that game with so many characters that are likable, that have really interesting moments, and the strategy behind it. Ooh, maybe I'll play Fire Emblem Awakening next.
I think you just need to pre-order Fate.
I need to pre-order Fate's special edition from GameStop. What's the worst that could happen?
No, nothing bad.
All right, so Minecraft. Let's talk about Minecraft. Your game of the year every year for the last 5 years.
Yeah. I'm actually playing it right now while we do this podcast.
I thought that's what I heard in the background.
Yeah.
So they announced an education edition, which apparently it already had kind of what they called EDU version that came out in 2011, but this is actually really designed specifically for the classroom. And they're going to put out a free trial for it this summer. And the idea is they want to give tools to teachers and to students in their classrooms to use Minecraft as an education tool. So that's kind of neat. I'm not a Minecraft player, as we talked about earlier, but I do like when they find ways to get gaming into the classroom. And I think there's other ways they could do it, and they haven't, but they could. But I do like seeing when games are used for things beyond just entertainment. They really are. Like we talked about That Dragon Cancer last week. So that could be a way of kind of learning and experiencing, art and life experience in a way that you can't in a lot of games. So this is kind of neat. It's a way that they can use it for education. So just thought it was worth pointing out.
It's not, because I hate Minecraft.
It's totally worth pointing out.
No.
This next one is about a game that you like. Why don't you tell us about this next one?
The Division won't launch with everything available on day one. That sounds like a great headline. The Division is launching with not everything coming out.
Yeah, so have you read about this at all with the Brooklyn content?
I have not done much research on it, to be honest.
That's okay.
With you.
Well, let me tell you what I found is that
I want you to research
they've had
it for
different
me.
sections that have been available, whether it's been things they've announced or maybe in some of the alpha play. But it sounds like Brooklyn won't be included at launch. They're really going to focus on Midtown Manhattan. And the developer is saying basically this makes the most sense for us in terms of like being able to have a polished final product when it releases, but also for the story. Midtown Manhattan is plenty big, and it does what we need it to do. Although Brooklyn could be added later in DLC.
All right, so here's my question. Why even bring it up? Because that makes you think, I already know how some people are going to react. Oh, they're just trying to nickel and dime us. They're going to charge us for Brooklyn. So why even bring it up? Why not just talk about Manhattan and never mention Brooklyn?
I didn't get any access to the alpha, but I can say it sounds like maybe there were some expectations, and then they needed to answer them before the game came out. So it needed to be addressed. So at some point, in some way, the expectations were there, and they had to address why it won't be included. And that also goes with the second part of the story, and that is that player trading has been shelved for now, although it sounds like that one is pretty likely to make an appearance at some point.
Well, at least I will look at it half the glass half full. At least they're saying it's going to make an appearance at some point.
Yeah.
Whereas Destiny, I'm still waiting to get my sword from Tim Nestor.
That sword is awesome. I love that
Yeah,
sword.
I just need you to give it to me.
That sword's cool because when you first get it, it's really cool and it does decent damage. But when you start feeding it some of the other weapons that you get on some of those drops, and you're like, I don't want this gun anymore, but I'm just gonna feed it to my sword, and your sword starts powering up. That's a good feeling.
So maybe you should start playing Destiny.
Maybe I should. I'm gonna start playing Destiny and Fire Emblem Awakening while finishing Assassin's Creed.
Before we forget, we need to play Dying Light.
Poor Dying Light. I keep mentioning it and getting close to playing it.
Well, you are getting closer to the following. We're 19 days.
That's right.
From the following. Wait, maybe it's earlier than that. I don't know.
And by
Somewhere
the way,
around there.
I don't know about you, but the more I read about the following, and I'm trying not to read too much because I just want to experience it when I get to play it. The more that I've heard about it, though, the more I'm like, this sounds like some of the best DLC. Now, maybe my hype level is just getting too high now, but it sounds like some of the best DLC that they've put out for a game in a long time, just in terms of scope and content and what they're doing with it.
It feels like when you look at what The Witcher's doing, what Dying Light's doing, what Destiny's doing, what The Division's going to do, it feels like games now, and they're not, some of these games aren't coming out and saying, yeah, this is what we're doing. Like Destiny, when you bought it, you knew expansions were coming. Just like anybody who's going to buy The Division, if you're not expecting expansions and you're not expecting things to be left off so they can add it on later, then you're going in stupid. And you need not to buy the game because your complaints are invalid. But anyways, what I was trying to drive at is it feels like instead of going, next year we're releasing Dying Light 2, these guys are going, you know what, let's just make Dying Light 2, but let's make it in Dying Light.
Yeah.
And use the same content we already have and make it bigger and make it better. And we're just going to release it as an expansion. Now, originally, this was supposed to be single-player DLC that was part of the Season Pass. Now, the Season Pass for Dying Light was only $20. So I think it was the original plans was for something small. And then as it blew up and they realized they could make something so much bigger and so much better than the original game, because the map for the following, and this is what Tim and I are talking about, is actually bigger than the map for Dying Light, the vanilla game.
That's crazy. Because Dying Light's a big game.
Yes, and then it has buggies, it has all this other things that adds on to it. It could easily be called Dying Light 2 if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But anyways, my point is they did not have this scope, I believe, when they started it, because they were only charging $20 for the expansion, or for the season pass, which included other DLC as well. So it's not like this was the only thing that was coming out in the future. So the creators of Dying Light, Techland, actually had to up the price of the season pass to $30 because they realized they were offering so much for just $20.
Now, was that before Dying Light came out and the season pass was available, or did some people get the season pass for $20 and then if you bought it late you got it for $30?
See, I own Dying Light on the PS4 and Xbox One, and I'll explain why I own it so I don't sound like some spoiled little rich bastard who buys games on both systems.
We already know that's who you are. Let's just move on past
So,
it.
when I decided I was going to buy Dying Light, I bought it on the Xbox One for the $60 digital. And then I went on slickdeals.net or something like that. I think it was Slick Deals at the time, not Cheap Ass Gamer. And they had posted on there, and this was like, I think the day before the launch or the day of the launch of Dying Light, they said, if you go to GameStop.com and buy the season pass for Dying Light, which again was $20, GameStop was screwing up and they were giving you the game, not the season pass. So you would pay them $20.
I remember that.
And they would send you a digital code that was the PS4 full version of Dying Light. So, this is after I'd already pre-ordered the Xbox One. I said, a couple of my friends verified it worked, and I said, I'm just gonna try it. It's just $20, and at this time I had credit at GameStop, so I used my credit. I bought it. I was a little nervous. I get the code. I put it in my little PS4 redeem code thing, and sure enough, pops up. You own the full copy of Dying Light. So I'm like, sweet. I just freaking got the game. And then like 2 days later, I get an apology email from GameStop saying, we apologize with the error. Here's your code for the season pass. So I then put that code in, and now I have the Dying Light season pass on the PS4. So I got for $20 the game and the season pass. So I'll have the following on the PS4 as well. So anyways, back to my story. So the game, when it came out, was a already big, beautiful, awesome game. So their original plan was just to release like little like I don't want to say expansions, little DLC, like customization DLC. Some like, I think they had some like arena mode type thing I never tried out or anything. And then they were also advertising single player story content coming. You know how like even Uncharted 4 is doing that, and yet if you ask Naughty Dog what the single player content is for Uncharted 4, they'll tell you, I have no idea what we're going to do for the DLC.
Right.
So it was the same thing with Dying Light. So when I bought the game on the Xbox One, I did not buy the DLC, but I ended up playing the game on the Xbox One because I played with Jesse, Nate Bacon, and and John Martin on our Platinum Achievement group. And so I decided to buy the season pass for $20. And then in December, I believe it was December 8th, I'm going off memory here, Techland came out and said, the following's coming out. It's this huge thing. Going forward, I think they did this before December 8th. It was like December 1st. We are just letting you know, on December 8th, we are upping the price from $19.99 to $29.99. So to answer your question, which took forever, and I apologize, but at least I'm entertaining when I talk.
Apology not accepted.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So the $19.99 season pass was actually available for like, 10 months? No, longer than that, 11 months. So you could buy the season pass for $19.99, you were getting all that. But in like December 8th, they changed it to $30. So if you were to try to buy the season pass now, as far as I know, and I haven't checked, it's $29.99.
It's too late. Yeah.
So I try to get all my buddies who are in love with Dying Light to go buy the season pass at $20 because, in my opinion, and I obviously haven't played it, but the following, if it's anything close to Dying Light is as a game, but just bigger and better, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
The following is going to be phenomenal. So I'm actually really pumped for that, and that comes out in February. I believe it's February
that'll be a
9th.
lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that too. All right, last little piece of news before we talk about some games that have been announced is the Assassin's Creed movie. Now, I am a big fan of the Assassin's Creed games, just as a franchise in general. I think I've mentioned this before. I think those games get some unfair criticism at times, and at other times they get fair criticism. It just really depends on the game and what's being said about it. But overall, I think they're really fun games. I like the world they've created. I know that you're a fan of some of the modern-day settings that they do. So the movie they're putting out is starring Michael Fassbender, an amazing actor. He played Magneto, a young Magneto, in the newer X-Men movies. He's also been in smaller roles in movies like 300 or Inglourious Bastards, and he's been in many, many others. He's an amazing actor. He was, of course, Steve Jobs in his big movie this fall, and he's an amazing actor. And I'm interested to see his take on a video game character that he admittedly, before he started filming it, didn't know much about. And so he had to learn about the character and what he and his modern-day counterpart were like. He is playing a brand new character and his modern-day descendant, so we can assume that there's going to be a modern-day setting and some sort of animus connection. I think that's a safe assumption to make. The setting of the historical setting of his ancestor is going to be set in 15th century Spain, as well as a modern-day city yet to be announced. So, as far as I know, unless I'm forgetting a game, that's going to be a setting we haven't seen before. 15th century Spain. Nice. Is there a game that was in Spain that you know of? Am I forgetting one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think I'm forgetting any. So anyway, that's kind of neat. I'm glad it's an original story, although I do think it's probably going to hit a lot of the same beats, I'm assuming, of Assassin's Creed 1 and maybe 2, where you had Desmond's story with his ancestors. I'm assuming there's going to be some similarities there, some similar beats. The co-stars, though, it's an impressive cast list. You've got, of course, Michael Fassbender. You've got Brendan Gleeson. I don't know how to say her name. Marion Cotillard from, I remember her from Inception and other movies. Michael K. Williams and Jeremy Irons, who I assume he's got to be a villain of some kind. You can't have the voice of Scar and not have him be a bad guy. So
I thought Jeremy Irons was in. I think he played Ezio's father.
Like he actually did the voice of it.
I thought so.
Oh well, maybe he won't be a villain. I just assumed, Scar. Come on.
I thought so, but I could be wrong. He's got a great voice.
Oh, he's got an amazing voice. Also a good villain from Die Hard 3. I think it's With a Vengeance. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's my favorite Die Hard.
Samuel L. Jackson. That movie comes out on December 21st. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm keeping my expectations in check, even though the cast list sounds great and I like those games. I imagine it could make a good movie if done right. My expectations are still in check. I'm expecting it to be disappointing. That way, if it's good, then great. I'll really enjoy it. So, all right. Let's talk about games that have been announced recently. Some of these aren't necessarily breaking news that you've never heard of before, but some of them are just, kind of confirming that it's coming and the release date. Others of these announcements are just saying, hey, this is coming to a new system it wasn't on before. So I thought this would be good to share. So number one, we've already talked about this game once, but they announced, this isn't a game announcement, it's more of a special console announcement. Fire Emblem Fates is going to have a special 3DS XL, or new 3DS XL console. It's going to have its design on. I think you've seen the image of this, right? The console is specially
gorgeous.
designed with the Fire Emblem theme. It looks amazing. It's going to launch on February 19th, same day as the game, for $199.99. But it will not include a copy of the game, which is...
See, I hate
it's
this.
mind-boggling to me.
And they do it all the time. Like, they had, like, a Hyrule... I bought it, too. GameStop exclusive Hyrule Legends or whatever, Zelda 3DS, and I think they did it with the Majora's Mask too, where you pay $200 for the 3DS and you don't get the game with
That
it.
makes no sense. I mean, if you have to make it, $229.99, make it $230. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's the issue, make it a little more expensive and include the game. I just really don't understand the logic there. I mean, to me, it's confusing, and I buy video game-related stuff all the time. So imagine a parent or someone who's relatively new considering diving in on a system. They're like, oh, this one comes with the game. That looks neat, and you buy it, and there's no game. Like, I would assume there's a game because it says Fire Emblem Fates on it and has a character on it. But
Yep. I would charge $220 and give you a digital copy of the game.
Make it $219.99, so you're getting a discount on the game and the system itself. That'd be great. That'd be worthwhile. Anyway, that 3DS does look cool. I just wish it came with the game. So
It's gorgeous.
All right. They have announced a sequel to the very popular RPG Bravely Default. This is going to be called Bravely Second End Layer for the 3DS, and it comes out April 15th. So the 3DS is getting two heavy-hitting RPGs before we get to the to E3 even. Did you play Bravely Default?
I did. I didn't beat it or anything, but I actually put in I think 7 hours into the demo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they give you like a 6 or 7 hour time limit, and I exceeded it, or I went through it. And then I put probably 20 hours into Bravely Default, the actual game, and then just kind of wore down. But that's how I am. I have no problem admitting it because I buy so many games. That's how I am with most JRPGs. I get out of it what I can, but very few can get me to sit through them entirely because I do feel like they grind too much.
Yeah.
And it gets a little annoying, so...
Well, what's cool about that on Bravely Default, now, I never owned a copy of the game. I just played that demo, and I really liked it. It kind of reminded me of when they remade Final Fantasy III for the DS a while back. And I mean, like, the old 3, not like the American 3 that was actually 6. But anyway, it reminded me of that and the style, the way it looked. So I liked it. What I really liked was when you're traveling, you can turn off random battles. So, like, if you... Let's say you push your party to the limit, and you're pretty much done. Like you've got no magic, your health is really low, you're out of items, and you just need to make it back to town. You can just turn off battles, or if you just want to get from point A to point B without being interrupted nonstop. So I liked that, and you can turn all the way off the battles, or you can put them on a high battle rate if you need to grind. So that every few steps you get a fight. They have some cool stuff there where you can kind of edit your experience a little bit. And of course, the battles themselves really took me back to old school Square games. So I liked it. I just never did buy a copy of it.
I highly recommend it, especially if you can get it at a decent price.
Yeah.
It's a really good game. And I am looking forward to Bravely Second, so I plan on pre-ordering that as soon as possible. Again, I just like to own these games.
And that makes sense. I mean, this is the kind of game that Bravely Second might be something that you don't actually really get to play for a while, but at least you'll have it. So when that day comes when you want to scratch that old school JRPG itch, there it is, sitting there looking at you.
Yeah, or I'll just play Fire Emblem.
Or you'll just play, yeah, that's true.
I know that's the depressing part about Fire Emblem is if that was the only game you buy all year, then to have basically 3 copies of a game.
Oh yeah.
And just play it all year would be amazing. But for me, it's gonna be like I'll probably get through. I don't even know. Part of the first copy, and then the other 2 will just.
You'll get to the first cutscene and be like, "That was great. Let's go back to this Rocket League."
Such a great game, Rocket League.
All right, so Bravely Second comes out on April 15th, as well as a collector's edition. If you're really into Bravely Default, and you're excited about the sequel, then this collector's edition sounds cool. It comes with a 10-song soundtrack and a 250-page art book, and that's for $70 for $69.99. So that's pretty cool. Collector's edition. They have announced that Rocket Birds 2 Evolution is coming to PS4 and Vita. I believe Rocket Birds, the original, I don't know if it's this month or if it was last month. It was up as a PS Plus game. Some people like it. It's kind of a mobile style game, really, once you play it. It's okay.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. So there you go. That's coming out PS4 and Vita. Release date was not specified. This one I'm really excited about, though. Republique was an iOS only and PC only game that was released it was episodic, and they had released 4 episodes. And when it releases its final episode on March 22nd, that's the same day that the PS4 version will become available, and you can buy all 5 episodes for $24.99. I've heard really great things about this game. I've heard it's got a cool story and that it's a very stylized stealth game. So I'm excited to play that.
I actually have interest in that as well.
Yeah,
I did a little bit of research when I got my PC at first, and I was like, that's one I'll be interested in.
Yeah. Yes, I'm excited for that one. It seems like a game that would be fitting on the Vita, too. So I'm surprised there's not a Vita version, but at least you can play it on the PS4.
There's no such thing as a game that's fitted for the Vita. The Vita is
I don't
trash.
understand your brain. All right. Oddworld news. So Oddworld. I like the Oddworld series, and it's not for everybody, but I like the kind of the platforming nature of the old, and I'm talking about the older Oddworld games. I'm not talking about...
Not for me.
I'm not talking about... what's that one called? Wrath. Something's Wrath. What was that one called? You know what I'm talking about? The Xbox One game. And then there was Munch's Odyssey. There was a couple of Oddworld...
Yeah, there was one that was like a first-person shooter.
Yeah, there's a couple of Oddworld spin-off games, and some people love those. I never really experienced them, so I can't give my opinion on them. But I do like the side-scrolling PS1, Abe's Odyssey, and Abe's Exodus. I love both of those games. So what... This news piece is basically saying that the new and tasty, that's the name of their HD remaster for Abe's Odyssey, it's now out on Vita. And so if you own the PS4 version, as I do, and if you downloaded it through PS Plus, you should have a copy, you can now get it on Vita. Great example of a game that works perfectly on the Vita, because it's not one of those things where it's not a shooter. So the controls, I think, would work great with the Vita. I would even suggest using the D-pad because you need some precision, especially in the later levels. It gets pretty challenging. So that's pretty exciting for those of you who like... It's kind of like old-school side-scrolling Prince of Persia. If you ever played that in the old PC or old... I want to say Super Nintendo had a version of it. Basically where you have to... Where you jump from platform to platform and you got to time things right. And it's got that kind of vibe to it. So, and they also mentioned in that same article... that as soon as they finish that, then it's on to Exodus. So that lets me know that they are planning on releasing an HD version of the follow-up to that. So that's pretty cool. All right. Prison Architect. What do you know about it? Anything?
Prison Architect, that's it.
Because you're a Steam... Okay. Well, I know that you're on Steam, so I thought maybe you've seen it. It was promoted quite a bit on Steam.
Really? I didn't pay attention to that at all.
It's one that I actually almost pulled the trigger on Steam when it was first in early access, just because it looked really interesting. I do like certain types of simulation games, and this one is a prison construction and management simulation, and some of the scenarios they put you in that you have to solve problems actually seemed kind of interesting. But anyway, it is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Xbox 360 sometime this spring. So if Prison Architect... caught your interest like it did me when it was on Steam, then it's coming to consoles in the spring.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now, and it looks like a terrible game.
Yeah, there you go. I really wanted your opinion on it because I thought you'd love it. Pixel piracy. Don't even look this one up.
Yeah, I know. It
has
trash.
the word pixel in it. I am really intrigued by this game. They did not reveal a release date, but the description of pixel piracy... It's just a few words, but it tells me everything I need to know. It's a deeply layered RPG pirate simulation. I'm in. That's all you gotta tell me. And it's got old school pixelated graphics. It looks really cool. So I'll be playing that. That's coming to PS4. All right. I don't know if you like horror games, but there's a new one coming out called Layers of Fear. It's currently available on Steam already, and it's coming to PS4 on February 16th. So that's coming up pretty soon. But here's the description of it, which sounds really fascinating. Layers of Fear is a psychedelic horror where you take control over an insane painter in his quest to finish his magnum opus, heavily inspired by the masterpiece paintings from past centuries and the architecture and decor from the 19th century.
Now, the only thing I really know about this game is this game was inspired by PT. And
for real?
PT, yes. And PT is not a game I would play. I watched a little bit on YouTube when it was like all hyped up and everything, and I was like, that's a big no for me.
Why? Just because the horror aspect isn't your thing?
Well, I mean, like, obviously I like Resident Evil, but I wouldn't say Resident Evil games are that scary. They're more like jump scare, but they at least give you a gun and a knife or whatever to protect yourself. PT, you're just walking around, and I imagine Layers of Fear is the same thing. And Outlast was like that, where Outlast was like a first-person game where you have no weapon. So if something's gonna kill you, you have to run away from it. And that has no. I have no interest in not being able to defend myself. Like, I want to be able to shoot something that's haunting me.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
So,
well,
that sounds like a game that I wouldn't be interested in.
Layers of Fear sounds interesting. I like the premise of being a psychopath.
Sounds interesting.
Of being an insane painter. So it sounds kind of interesting, but it's one of those ones that maybe I'll read about and be like, oh, that's a cool game. I'm glad it exists, and then I'll move past it. Yeah, but I might. Who knows? Might try it. And a couple of last games that were announced recently. There's one called Neurovoider. So for those of you who like twin-stick shooters, they're calling it a futuristic twin-stick shooter RPG. It's currently available on Steam as well. That's coming to PS4 and Xbox One. And then there was previously a Xbox One and PC exclusive called Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. That is actually coming to PS4 on February 9th. So for those of you who were interested in that exclusive game, it's now coming to your PS4. And lastly, I thought this was interesting. Everyone knows that The Witness is coming out this coming week. You might be listening to this right now after it's already released. It has been rated for the Xbox One, which it's one of those things that it all but confirms that it's coming. So it's not an official confirmation, but those of you who are holding out hope that The Witness would come to Xbox One, it sounds like it's coming. So
I personally had no interest in it.
In The Witness?
Yeah.
Oh man, I've heard some great first impressions of it. I'm
Isn't
curious
it
to see the reviews
just
when
a
they come out.
first-person puzzle game? That's like
People are
everything I
comparing it to stuff like Myst, but I've also heard that it's not necessarily a fair comparison because Myst was, it wasn't all there. Like, it wasn't a great game. It had some good ideas. It's a classic. It's considered a classic, but there's some things that are kind of not quite right with it. From what I've heard, The Witness is... I mean, think about it. If you liked Braid, this is a labor of love for 8 years with a bigger team, with a lot more money from the guy who made Braid, which was...
I didn't care about Braid.
Well, Braid, even if you didn't like the game itself, I mean, I think just the innovation that was there and the creativity that was there is impossible to ignore. So if nothing else, I think The Witness is worth consideration. Now, I'm excited about it. I want to play it. So,
are you buying it day one, or is it something you're like, well, when it goes on sale, I'll buy it?
That is a good question. But now that I need to go pre-order Fire Emblem Fates. So Witness might become, I'm going to buy it as soon as I have some money or it's on sale. So that's kind of...
Well, what about Final Fantasy Explorers? Have you pre-ordered that yet?
No, I'm just going to buy it when I go to the store. I'm not going to pre-order it. Do I need to pre-order it? Would that make you feel better?
I don't I don't know if there's any pre-order bonuses, but I was just curious if you're backing out of that to then get Fire Emblem Fates.
I don't think so. I think Final Fantasy Explorers looks like a lot of fun. My only concern with that is that we all connect like once, maybe twice to play that, and then it's done. So, do I want to pay $40 for that? I don't know. But yeah, no.
You got Best Buy, though.
I do have Best Buy. It looks like a lot of fun.
It
looks like a lot of fun, yeah. So, no, I think I'm still going through with that.
I think if you and I at least commit to it, Kyle and...
Get Mark in there.
Mark.
Dan.
And Dan. Hopefully they'll be involved as well. But if anything, at least you and I can do it.
Sounds good. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that one. 3DS is going to get some activity this year, which is really cool.
I know. After what I would consider a down and terrible year for both the 3DS and Wii U, I know there are some highlights on the Wii U, but overall for the 3DS it was terrible. So far 2016 is not kind of strong; it's extremely strong.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the year. Maybe a year and a half that followed the 3DS release. When it released, it was pretty weak. It wasn't looking great. And they did that price drop, and they rewarded people who had bought in early. And then all of a sudden, the game started rolling. And then the 3DS just took off. And so that was kind of like the glory days of the 3DS. And then it really slowed down, like towards the end of 2014, and then like I think after A Link Between Worlds, you didn't really hear much. I mean, there were games, but just that deluge of awesome games just kind of died down really quickly. So you're right. This year is already shaping up to be amazing. Plus, if you put out a Fire Emblem game, it makes that entire year look amazing. So, at least for me.
Yeah. The only thing I wish, and we'll move on from this quickly, but I just really, really wish Nintendo would release a Fire Emblem game on a console, like a home console. And I was so sad when I heard the creator say that Fire Emblem games are handheld games.
I have no problem with being on my handheld though. See, that doesn't bother me at all. Like I liked playing the GameCube
But I'm a
one.
graphics whore.
I know you are, but I mean the handheld systems can handle the graphics that they were pushing out on, at least for a strategy RPG, for a turn-based strategy RPG.
Listen, Awakening, none of the characters had feet. So obviously it
All right,
was
that's
struggling.
a good point. Yeah,
It was struggling. That's not something you could get away with on a home console. You can't create a game without feet.
But didn't you like the way they kind of shuffled around when they were talking? That was kind of cool. You didn't like that?
I'm curious if Fates is going to be like that. If they don't have feet,
I think you should set your expectations on Fates is going to look a lot like Awakening did. So
I have a feeling.
yeah,
as well.
but it's going to be fun. All right, so those are some of the
Yes.
games that have been announced recently. So just to kind of keep you guys up to date on what is coming. So now, Derek, I know that for you are always looking for a good deal. I don't know if you've been able to find any. I've listed a few here. Are there any deals that you would recommend people checking out this week?
Nothing really. The only thing that I'm planning on buying is Dark Cloud 2 is on sale on the PS4 for $11.
I never played that. I played Dark Cloud 1, and it's funny because we talked about that, and as we were talking about it, I was like, I don't really remember much about Dark Cloud 1, except that I like it a lot. And so maybe I kind of want to play that, but Dark Cloud 2 is one I never got to, so that looks kind of cool.
Dark Cloud 2 actually looks better. Looks like it would be the better game. I'll actually have to do a little bit of research on that, and there's a few. I know Andrew on our group is a big Dark Cloud fan, so I'll have to ask him if he prefers 1 or 2. But 2 is actually on sale, which is weird because 1 wasn't on sale when it came out. It just came out at $15, but when they released 2, they dropped it to $11.
Well, I think they're also running a sale on some other PS2 games like.
Yeah, there's a few others.
Like I think the Grand Theft Auto games, if they're not anymore, they were recently on sale.
Yeah, last week they had all the Grand Theft Auto games half off, and then you could buy them bundled for $18. So I almost pulled the trigger, and then I was like, and you know what? I have gotten better at this as a person who does buy a lot of games. I have gotten to where I'll actually ask the question, will I play it?
Yeah.
And then if the answer is no, then the second question comes. But do you really have to own it?
Yeah, and that's the
'Cause
thing. I
to own
pulled the trigger
games.
on a whole bunch of PlayStation 1 classics, and I did not ask myself that question, but I'm kind of glad I didn't, because now I own games like Chrono Cross and Castlevania Symphony of the Night and several others, Xenogears. I own those digitally, and I can play them on my Vita whenever I want. And you're right. I probably won't have time to play through maybe any of those, definitely not all of those in the immediate future, but it feels really good to have them. Like $13, I picked up like 7 or 8 classic games. So anyway, let's see what other sales are going on. There's a Humble Bundle for those of you who like PC gaming. There's a winter sale going on right now through January 28th. So by the time you listen to this, hopefully that sale is still going. They update their deals every day. There's a few deals that are lasting for the whole sale, but there's a few things that are highlighted each day. So check that out. Stay on that Humble Bundle website. They also currently have, and I believe it should be going for the next week or two. I hope it's still active if you check it. They have their Fire Access sale for their Fire Access games. These deals are crazy. All right, so if you've ever been to that site, to Humble Bundle, you know that you can pay the minimum amount of at least $1, and it gives you that first tier of games. And that, in this case, would unlock XCOM Enemy Unknown, Sid Meier's Pirates, and the Ace Patrol bundle, which is a combination of several Ace Patrol games. and Civ 3. If you pay over the average, which is $9.80, so about $10, then you, in addition to those games, you also unlock Civ 4, Civ 5, Starships, the XCOM DLC, which is, I think, Enemy Within. I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few additional items that haven't been announced yet, so some mystery, whether it's DLC or games. And then, of course, if you pay their maximum $15, you then unlock Civilization Beyond Earth with all the DLC that's come out to date. So for $15, you can get an absolutely insane list of games for the PC. And I can vouch for a couple of the Civ games, 3 and 4 in particular. I've enjoyed playing those. I love XCOM. That game is a blast. Sid Meier's Pirates is a classic. I think it still holds up as a fun pirate game. And so yeah, just a crazy deal. So if you've got $1 or $10 or $15 and you want to get a couple PC games, I recommend checking that out.
I will, just real quick, and then we can move on from the deals section. Best Buy's ad for next week, starting January 24th, which when this goes up, the ad will actually officially be out. Their ad has been released or leaked, and a couple notable games that are going to be on sale. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 will be $39.99. Rise of the Tomb Raider will be $39.99. Halo 5 Guardians will be $39.99. And then Guitar Hero Live will be $69.99. That includes the guitar, so it's $30 off. And then remember, with Best Buy, the reason why I like to go there, and it's my favorite store, is because if you have Gamer Club unlocked, you get an additional 20% off. So you're looking at $32 games that came out at $60, what, a month ago?
That's
2
crazy.
months ago?
Yeah, those are good deals. Hard to pass up if you've been holding off on some of those big games, and I do the same thing. You kind of hold off on games you know you won't play, but you know you're gonna get to them. For some of these, now's the time to jump in.
Target's doing the same thing.
Oh, Target is?
Yeah, Target's got some other games and the ones I just listed off at $39.99 as well.
Okay, cool. All right, and I don't know if this sale will still be going on when this goes up. I'm not positive. I think it will be. Typically, these sales last until like the Monday or Tuesday of the next week. But on the PlayStation Store, there's currently a WB and 2K sale. Everything from the Batman games. Right now, you can get 45% off Arkham Knight if you haven't played that yet. The Lego Batman and Lego Hobbit games, Mad Max, Shadows of Mordor, Mortal Kombat X, and the classic Mortal Kombat games. For 2K, you got WWE 2K16, Evolve and its DLC, the Borderlands games, the Bioshock games on PS3. Whole bunch of sales happening with WB and 2K, and I could be wrong, but I think those will last until probably early
Monday or early Tuesday.
Yeah, so by the time this episode should go up on Sunday, so if you listen to it relatively early, you should still have time to jump on there and check out those deals. And then of course Xbox always has deals as well, so be sure to check those out. They haven't announced anything about what's going to be happening for next week, but I will reiterate, if you have not played The Witcher 2, I highly recommend jumping on your 360 or your Xbox One and downloading that for free. That way, if you ever get a chance to get to it, it is a fun game. It's a flawed game with some systems here and there, but man, is it fun, and it's great. And that's it, as far as I know, for gaming deals for now, unless you've got anything else you want to throw in the pile there.
Nope, that's it.
Alrighty.
Good.
So what I wanted to do to close out our episode 3 here, or episode 2.0, or whatever weird thing I'm calling things.
2.5.
2.5. What I thought I would do is basically want to talk about developers. We've been talking a lot about gaming news and what games are being announced, and a big part of that is these developers are creating content that is just amazing, and the communication they're putting out about these games as well is better than it's ever been. Here's our game, here's what our plans are, here's what we're trying to accomplish. So the level of detail we have about the way things work behind the scenes for developers is higher than it's ever been. And so that was causing me to kind of reflect a little bit, and this is an idea that you suggested a few weeks ago too, and that is just to basically highlight developers that over the years we've really enjoyed their work. But basically I want to talk about our top 3 developers, like our personal favorite developers over the years. And maybe just mention a few games that they've made that have helped to solidify that. for you. But I don't know. Do you have an order for yours? Or are they just kind of, here are my top 3 in no order?
I think it's a pretty set order. I would do at number 3 Ubisoft. There's just so many games I love that Ubisoft releases. They hardly let me down. I know they've been crapped on a lot lately, the past couple of years for, Watch Dogs and just some of the decisions they've made with stuff. But overall, I'm just a big fan of almost everything they release. I like their...
Like Raving Rabbids?
Oh, yeah. Huge fan. I've got the new one pre-ordered that hasn't even been announced
yet. Did you get the special edition where you get a real rabbit that can come live with you?
Yeah, the special Legacy Rabbit edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming to Xbox 2. So I pre-ordered that.
2.
But yeah, I'm just a huge fan of everything they touch, everything they do. So I put them at number 3.
Yeah.
Number 2, Naughty Dog. I just really respect them. I'm not like a fanboy. I just respect what they do when they're launching a game. And I'm not a huge fan of their earlier games. It wasn't until Uncharted that I really got into.
Oh, you didn't
Naughty
like
Dog's
Jak
game.
and Daxter?
I bought them late in the PS2's life cycle, and I tried to start them and play them, and I was like, "Oh, these are okay."
I thought they were a
there's
lot of
some
fun.
humor
I
in 'em.
thought they were just kind of a little bit more serious version of the Ratchet and Clank games, but they were kind of at the tail.
They're still silly.
They were silly.
But-
Yeah, you're right. They were silly. Especially Jack X though tried to get a little bit like edgy. It almost felt like mid '90s Generation X cool stuff with Jack X.
Mhm.
But no, I thought they were fun games. I don't think they were perfect, but I really, believe it or not, especially enjoyed the Daxter game that came out on PSP. That was a surprisingly fun game. So I liked what they did with those games.
Yeah, so I didn't play them or Ratchet and Clank games really during the PS2.
Okay, but you liked Uncharted though, so that's where it started for you.
That's where it started. And so obviously the quality of all 3 of the Uncharted games, and then I would put The Last of Us up there in my top 5 games of all time.
Wow.
And that's including all like nostalgia games.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's up there. And then
And so your number one
has to be BioWare. It has to be. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic.
BioWare. They make medical products, right?
Yes, you nailed it. All the medical products in Ubisoft games, BioWare. So, big fan of, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect. I love Dragon Age and hate Tim because he won't play Inquisitions.
Sorry. Not sorry.
So it's just almost everything they touch, I enjoy. So really hyped about Mass Effect coming out this year potentially. And then just as honorable mentions, I wrote down Psionics. Do I really need to go into why? Rocket League. Bethesda. I'm not a fanboy, but I do enjoy Fallout games. Elder Scroll games are solid. I did really like Wolfenstein. I like The Evil Within. So they're definitely to me, they're even though they've been around for a long time, for me personally, they are a developer on the rise. Especially with Doom coming out as well, and that looks really good. And then my last one, and then I'll shut up. Nintendo. I mean, we just talked about how much I love.
Yeah, they've made a
Emblem.
few games.
I enjoy the Mario series, and I love the Zelda games. I finish all the Zelda games.
Gosh.
Finish
Stop
Ocarina of Time
lying to yourself and everyone
in
else.
world record time. 30 seconds I beat Ocarina.
Well, that is
of Time.
true.
That was
You
amazing.
actually beat Ocarina before you even loaded the game. You were just looking at the menu
Yeah.
screen and you defeated that game already.
So, I mean, you can't be a pro gamer like me and beat Ocarina of Time in 30 seconds unless you're a fanboy of Nintendo.
Yeah. MLG.
MLG.
All right. For me, let's do my top 3. I'll start with number 3. My third favorite developer of all time is Rockstar. So when I go through the list of games that they made, I liked all of them. So I love the Grand Theft Auto series. personally, I think 5 is kind of like a benchmark of games for any developer. It's an absolutely stunning game. Although I do think I personally enjoyed their PS2 games the best. Combination of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. I loved all 3 of those. 4 I thought was just okay, but Grand Theft Auto games are amazing. But my favorite game they've ever put out from any franchise of theirs is Red Dead Redemption. I like being a cowboy, I guess, but I liked the open world in the Old West. I liked the hunting. The story was really dark and really cool. It kind of reminded me of one of those really serious, kind of somber westerns, whether it's like True Grit or The Proposition or something like that, where it's just a dark storyline. You know, it's not like a Tombstone where here's the good guys, here's the bad guys, and let's have a bunch of, shootouts where the good guys win. Spoilers for Tombstone, which is also a cool movie, very cool movie. But I liked the way Rockstar went with this darker, grittier, more realistic take on this story for Red Dead Redemption. Love it. They've also made some great games like Bully, L.A. Noire, the Max Payne series, even games like Warriors and Manhunt and Midnight Club, all of which I wouldn't put in games that I love, but they've all got their pluses. Even Manhunt, as disgusting as a lot of those things can be in that game, the first Manhunt game was actually a really compelling third-person stealth game. Really, really interesting with a crazy story. Very much a horror game with some of the stuff that was happening, but they went too far with a lot of the violence. It was just kind of gratuitous after a while. And then Manhunt 2, I didn't play it just because Manhunt 1 kind of made me feel real gross.
Yeah, I bought Manhunt and I enjoyed it for a little bit, and then never played Manhunt 2.
All right, so Manhunt 1 has a very satisfying ending, though. So if you don't want to be spoiled with Manhunt, go ahead and skip ahead 30 seconds. So at the end of Manhunt, do you not want me to tell you this?
No, you can tell me.
Okay, so yeah, skip ahead 30 seconds if you haven't yet. At the end of Manhunt, you track down the main guy who's been leading you through this crazy game, and you get to put a chainsaw right through his face, through the back of his head. And
Sweet.
And it feels good, because he's awful. He's the worst. All right, so Rockstar, I just love the stuff they put out. I can't wait until I'm hoping that they put out a Red Dead game next.
No State of Emergency on here. So.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That's a fun one. Yeah, but I only played that because I didn't have an Xbox. I only played that on a friend's system a couple times.
State of Emergency was on the PS2. That's where I bought it.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it came to the PS2 first.
Oh.
And
Well, I've
then
only played it
released
on Xbox, so I guess in
later.
my mind it was an Xbox game. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Did you have a PS2?
Oh.
I can't remember.
I did have a
which one.
PS2, yes, but I played almost exclusively a certain type of RPG way back in the day. Like I didn't have a wide variety of games until I started playing more Grand Theft Auto games. But yeah, State of Emergency was never one that I played on the PS2, just on the Xbox. Anyway, moving on. Developer number 2 for me, my personal favorite. Number 2 is Nintendo. Let me read through some of these games that Nintendo has developed over the years. The IPs, I guess. Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Fire Emblem, Advance Wars, Wii Sports, F-Zero, Star Fox, Donkey Kong, and I don't mean the old rare ones. I mean even more recent ones. Golden Sun, Kid Icarus, Kirby, Pokemon, Punch-Out, Pikmin, Pilot Wings, and the list goes on. And I realized that some of those were by internal first-party studios, or maybe in some cases second-party studios. But in the end, when you look back at Nintendo and see the games that they are responsible for creating, in most cases directly, if not overseeing the creation of these things by their internal studios, they are a remarkable developer. And I probably have some of my best gaming memories with Nintendo more than any other developer. So, love Nintendo. And number 1 for me is Square. Square put out more games that I've enjoyed over the last. I guess
it doesn't say Square Enix.
No, because it includes things that they did before they combined with Square Enix. Shut up. And Square Soft as well. They went by when they merged with Soft. So yeah, just some of the series they've put out. The Final Fantasy series, I can't even take time to go through all the Final Fantasy games that I've enjoyed. 6 is the best. The Dragon Quest series, Kingdom Hearts series. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts, that's a remarkable series. Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore. I loved those games on the Super Nintendo. Chrono Trigger is in my top 3 games of all time. Depending on when you ask me, sometimes I consider it my favorite game of all time. Chrono Cross was a great follow-up on the PS1, although not as good as the original, still really good. Front Mission is a really cool mech turn-based strategy game with mechs. I don't know if you played that before, but they've had some really cool games they've put out. They had a game that
I didn't.
They had a game that I only played thanks to emulators later on in my life, and it's called Bahamut Lagoon, and it never came out in the U.S. Another cool dragon-based turn-based strategy game that Square made. Super Mario RPG, Xenogears, Parasite Eve, Vagrant Story, Threads of Fate, The Bouncer, Drakengard, the Saga series, The World Ends With You.
A lot of good games. I just bought Xenogears.
Yeah.
I liked Drakengard 3. Obviously, that's not what you're talking about when you mentioned Square, but I really actually enjoyed it because I thought it was very funny.
I never played 3. I only played the original one, and I listed it because they were co-developers. Although they published it and they didn't get as much credit for helping to develop it. I'm blanking out on the name of the developer. I apologize. But they were so all these games they at least co-developed if they didn't develop it, completely. Drakengard, the first one, was fun. It was really cool. The way you hop on your dragon, you go up, you shoot fire down on the guys, you hop down, you take on waves of enemies, kind of Dynasty Warrior style. But then you can get new weapons and upgrade them based on how many people you kill. So it was kind of repetitive but fun. I liked Drakengard. So, but anyway, in general, Square, I have to give them the nod as my favorite developer, just barely over Nintendo. Some honorable mentions for me would be Ubisoft. That was one you listed on yours. I totally agree. They've put out some amazing games. For everything from their smaller games like Valiant Hearts and Child of Light to their big games like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. And I haven't played Watch Dogs yet, but they've put out some amazing games. Also Naughty Dog, because I've learned to love the Uncharted series, and Last of Us, of course, is an amazing game. I agree with you on Bethesda as well, BioWare, and then I'll throw in a little nod to Rare, because Rare, and I'm talking like when Rare was teamed with Nintendo. Rare, I'm talking like GoldenEye, Donkey Kong, Rare, Banjo-Kazooie, Rare. So yeah, there you go. So there's our top 3 developers for each of us personally, and so think about this. When we think about our top 3 developers, what makes a good developer? How much does a game's developer influence your buying decisions? So you see, this game is announced. What's one of the first things you want to know about it, at least for me, is who made it. So for you, does that influence your buying decision?
Well, I mean, just you saw the passion I had for BioWare and all their games. So as soon as, if they say BioWare's working on a new IP, it's almost like it's an instant day one buy, even if they haven't even released much information.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog's the same way. Like if they were to say Naughty Dog's working on a new IP, there's an alarm that goes off that says you're buying this.
Yeah.
So it does have a huge weight because over time and over games, you build this trust with these developers / publishers, and it's just like when I bought my PS4, and I'm just using this as a broad example. I bought my PS4 not really that interested with many of the games that they announced that were coming out exclusively to the PS4. So why did I buy it, besides the obvious that I buy everything? But really, why did I buy it? Well, the reason is because I have this trust in Sony that they're going to release a bunch of first-party developed exclusive games because of their past, because of the PS2, because of the PS3, that I had that trust and faith that they were going to do it again in the PS4. So far they've been okay, but I expect I will be correct in a few years. That's the same thing with some of these developers. Ubisoft, when they announce a new IP, like The Division's a new IP. I've never played it. I'm going into it with the hype that I have based off of what I've seen, but a lot of it comes from the fact that it's being developed and published by Ubisoft, a company I personally fully trust.
Yeah.
So yes, it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think it does too. I mean, when the news came out several years ago that Rockstar was working on a game called Agent, do you remember that game when it was talked about?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like a 70s secret agent game, basically. It's exactly what it sounds like. And it sounded really cool, and it was Rockstar, and I was like, this is going to be great. And as far as I know, it's just kind of quietly been canceled, or at least not talked about anymore. I can't imagine it's still coming. But anyway, like, depending on if it's the right developer, I get excited about it. So I'm with you. It definitely influences my buying decision. So what I want to do is run down just a couple of options for you for a developer. If you had to pick between each of these two things, which would you pick? And you have to pick one. Which do you think is more important for developer quality? Consistency or innovation? What would you pick?
Consistency.
Any reason behind that other than you kind of shared that a little bit with BioWare? But what is it about consistency that's important to you?
Well, if you're not consistent, you break trust. So if BioWare was to release a terrible game next, let's say the next Mass Effect is just a complete pile of trash, then I'm going to lose faith that they are headed in the right direction. So I put more weight on consistency over innovation, because I don't need the next Mass Effect, the next Dragon Age, the next Knights of the Old Republic, which will come out. You will release that motherfudger. But I don't expect or demand those games to be innovative. They could copy and paste and maybe make subtle changes, or maybe update them to the way games are played now. For instance, Knights of the Old Republic probably shouldn't be exactly the same 15, 20 years later. But I would definitely put consistency of quality over the innovation.
Okay. I actually agree with you on that one. I would prefer, if I had to pick one, I'd rather them be a consistent developer in terms of quality, and just in terms of how they communicate with me as a gamer and their decisions as a company. I'd rather there be consistency there, as opposed to, as much as I love Nintendo, I think of Nintendo when I think of innovation, because they have some amazing ideas and they also try some really ridiculous ideas. So innovation is very good. It pushes the whole industry forward, but it doesn't always make for a great game experience when it's just a game that's trying a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, what about this? Is it more important that they improve their existing IP or create new IP?
I mean, I think the easy answer is to say create new IP, but as a person who loves sequels, this one actually, as I read ahead, kind of tore me. I'm like, well, I want them to consistently release existing IPs that I love and improve upon them, like an Assassin's Creed or a Mass Effect and so on. But I'm going to go ahead and go with creating new IP. I think you have to. I mean, eventually it would get old if a publisher just continues to release the same thing over and over. So I would definitely want something fresh and new. I mean, if Naughty Dog, with their success with Uncharted, never decided to make The Last of Us because they were like, well, we could just make Uncharted 4, 5, and 6, then I would be missing out on one of my favorite IPs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the developers of Killzone are stretching out to do Horizon.
Yeah, and as somebody who liked Killzone 2 and 3 a lot, and Shadowfall was terrible, I am excited to see them go in a different direction and try something new, and I do want to see what comes of it. And I do think Sucker Punch is another one that isn't going to release Infamous next time around. They're going to release something new.
Okay.
So hopefully.
Well, I mean, I want to say, like, I lean towards improving existing IP. Like, I think in my mind that makes the most sense based on, I'm with you. I like a good sequel. I get excited about that kind of stuff. But when I actually think about my reactions to things that have been announced over the last several years, I've been most excited when they introduce a brand new IP and present it to me in a way that, here's a world, get excited about it. Everything from a game that most people agree is just somewhere between mediocre and pretty good game, like The Order. I love that new IP. Or The Last of Us is a great example. Or these new games that have been announced, like Recore for the Xbox One. That IP already, with that short trailer, got me really excited. Or, of course, Horizon Zero Dawn. Can't wait for that. So it turns out that if I'm being honest with myself, for me personally, I have a much bigger reaction to exciting new IP than I do, revisiting existing IP. So that's interesting. I didn't really, though I had to kind of really be honest with myself about that. I really think that the new IP answer is the way I would lean. So I hate agreeing with you twice in a row. Let's see about this one.
Let's break this up, please.
Okay, which is more important? Transparency with consumers or meeting expectations and deadlines? This one's a little bit specific, I guess. But
this is easier for me.
So let me give you a good example. Uncharted 4 has been delayed twice now. Once was a significant delay out of fall 2015 into spring 2016, and then they actually gave it a date in March, and then they came out again and just let us all know what's happening, and they move it back again to April. Now, I would call that being transparent with consumers for the most part, where you're just saying, listen, we need to make this game the best it can be, and we're going to move it back. Or they could have met the expectation of when this game's coming out, or the deadline of when it's coming out, and said, hey, you said it's coming out in the fall. It came out in the fall. So there are some games that, Last Guardian, games like that just keep getting delayed, and, even though they gave release windows for years, they never hit any of those. They're also missing a transparency with consumers. What's going on? Why is that game not? So this is kind of a weird one, but if you had to pick, being totally transparent with consumers, even if it means, delaying something or something to that effect, or meeting expectations and, making sure you hit that deadline. What's more important to you?
Meeting expectations and deadlines.
So would you have rather them put out Uncharted 4 in the fall like they said they would, even if the game itself isn't up to snuff?
I would rather them not say it was coming out in the fall. Here's the thing, and this goes back to, transparency, but I still believe a lot of these companies, developers, publishers, even Sony, they release this information like, oh, come in fall of blah, blah, blah. And I truly believe, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist type of guy, I try to trust everybody, but I truly believe, after seeing so many delays, that they already know they're not going to hit these initial dates, that they release this information to hype people. For like, oh, Uncharted 4 is coming out in the fall of 2015. I need to hurry up and get a PS4. Like, I believe, and I'm not saying Sony's the only one guilty. I'm just saying I believe Xbox does this. I believe the PS4 does this. I believe Nintendo does. I believe Ubisoft and all them know certain games are not going to hit Windows, but they want to hype you or get your pre-order or do whatever they're trying to do. And so they'll tell you an initial window that they think might happen, but they really know it's not, and then they push it back.
Yeah. No.
So I prefer you just hit your deadline, but you hit your deadline because you actually announce it, like we talked about last week, where Bethesda said, hey, guess what? We've been developing Fallout 4 for the last 5-6 years, and we're going to release it in 6 months, and we're not going to delay it. And we're not going to tell you 2 years ahead of time. We're going to tell you 6 months before the game comes
and
out.
that's one thing that's frustrating about things like Shenmue 3 or the Final Fantasy VII remake. These games are just kind of these nebulous, like, hey, they're coming. Get excited. We showed you a picture or a little clip. And then it's like, will we see these before I'm too old to hold a controller anymore? Like, I'm with you. Setting realistic expectations is important. To me, it's really important that they're transparent with consumers because, again, that's kind of, it's almost like a marketing type of a thing where if you're open and honest with consumers in a way that's genuine and sincere, more often than not, you'll get their sympathy and, in some cases, their forgiveness if you have to push something back because you're just letting them know, seriously, here's what's going on. Like, from a very honest standpoint, most people are human beings and will get on board with that. Not everybody. The internet's full of angry people, but most people be like, yeah, that makes sense. You just explained it well. Like, I get it. I get where you're coming from. And they'd probably add on to that, hey, next time set a deadline that makes more sense, so there's no more of this confusion. But that transparency with consumers to me is pretty important. Last one. This one's got to do with like the art or the way it connects. Would you rather a developer create content that connects with players, like they make sure they are creating content that connects with players, or they just create honest art that may or may not connect with players? So the number one priority would be either connecting with players or, creating that art that you feel inspired to make and just putting it out there, whether or not it's something people get on board with. Which to you is more important?
All right, so you're not going to like my answer, but really the answer is the middle ground. Like, you obviously want the art to be honest. Like, you want somebody to create something that they're passionate about. You don't want them creating something that's standardized. You're like, oh, we must create this because 5 billion people will buy this game, and it's all about money. Now, I get that these corporations are about money, or you could say probably all about money. But I really, and maybe it's just the stupidity in me, want to believe deep down inside that there's not all evil people that work at, and I'm just using an example, I'm not picking on them, Ubisoft, that go, you know what, we want to create games that we love, but we also have to make money. So they have to find ways to connect to players, even if it is maybe a series that's becoming stale to a lot of players, but still sells millions and millions of copies. So for me, it's middle ground. You have to stay true, but you also have to, in a way, be willing to release stuff that is going to sell real well, and that you have to stick close to your guns. Like, Call of Duty is never going to be able to change a lot. Like, people are like, Call of Duty never changes, the same game every year. Dude, they sell billions and billions and dollars worth of copies of this game. How can you change it too much?
Yeah, I mean, last year's version from 2014 was on the top 10 selling lists for 2015, even though a new one came out. That's insane.
How do you become creative and change something that is already loved and adored by millions and millions of people? So I think you have to. I know you didn't want, you can't choose both, but really it's middle ground.
I think that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
I look at, like, because I'm picking on them, a publisher like Ubisoft, and even EA's been doing this lately, but Ubisoft loves to re-release sequels. I mean, we've talked about it with Assassin's Creed. They're going to probably end up doing this with Watch Dogs. They're doing it with Far Cry, where you're getting basically a Far Cry every year and a half, I should say. But they're not putting a lot of space between them. But then, on top of that, they're releasing games like Valiant Heart, Child of Light. EA's releasing Unravel. They're releasing Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge is not a big seller, yet why did they do it? Yeah. Because there was an outcry from fans saying, please give this franchise another shot. So I think it's out there. I think there is honest passion and art mixed in with also, this is by the book, we've got to do this because this is what's connecting with the players, and we can't stray too far from it.
No, I think Ubisoft's a good example of that. Because, again, you already brought up the two examples that I would have highlighted, and that is, Child of Light, and with Valiant Hearts especially. Like, those are not games that you bring up in a board meeting to say, here's how we're going to hit our monetary goals for the year. Like, those are games that you allow developers and artists within your team to kind of stretch their wings and do what they want to do, like do their little passion projects on the side, because you're doing so well with other things. Like your Assassin's Creed yearly releases are always successful in terms of sales, So I'm with you. I understand your middle ground answer because, it makes sense. I would lean towards the second option, creating honest art that may or may not connect with players. Because here's the thing, when you create some sort of honest piece of art, whether it's music or painting or a game or a movie, whatever piece of art that you are making, if you're honest with yourself and with the way you're communicating it, with your expressing yourself in a way that's true and sincere, it is going to connect with people. Now,
Yeah.
yes, you might limit yourself to a certain crowd, but like a game like Journey is not for everybody. But the creators, the developers, were honest with the kind of art they wanted to create. They were not trying to appease the, action shooter crowd with that game.
Yeah, as much as I crap on that game because I think it's crap, I do get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't go out and go, well, we can't make this game because Call of Duty is what sells.
Right.
Like, you do have to have that. You have to go, okay, this is what we want to create, and you do have to stick close to that. And as somebody who writes my own music, I don't write my own music to appease other people, especially since I never really release it. I write my own music for myself. If other people like it, great. I even look at this show that we're doing, like, we're not doing this to be huge podcasters who can quit our day jobs and just do this all day. Would it be cool? Awesome, yes. But it's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I enjoy it. So I want the show to flow and run in an honest way. I want it to just happen.
Yeah.
I don't want, Tim, you must say this joke. I must fake laugh. Then you must, I don't want that. Like, I want it just to be what it is. And I think that's what I want from video games as well. So, yeah, I can kind of see, like, I still think it's both for me, but I lean heavily towards what you're saying.
Yeah. And again, I also want to be connected with, so I can appreciate when a developer does go out of their way to make sure that the player is connected with, and it may or may not feel like some kind of inspired artwork piece. I would still argue that it is art in its own way. Even when it's done by a huge team with a huge budget behind it, there are still, if not little pieces of art throughout, it still is as an entire whole a piece of art. Even if it is, with corporate intentions behind it in some cases. So yeah, I mean, we kind of, I don't want to make too many assumptions about the motivations of people when they put these kind of games together. So it's kind of a dangerous road to go down a little bit, as far as just assuming, oh, they must be in it just for the money or whatever, just because it's a big game. But that being said, I wanted to focus on that to talk a little bit about why the developers we love are developers that we love. And that is because they've connected with us, in some way. But I also want to echo what you just said about this show, like the reason that we're doing it. And I'm with you. It's about having an honest conversation. There are times when we will talk about family more than games, or in this case, it sounds like our conversation today really kept us talking really heavily about games and not so much about family, because our families aren't important. So,
no, I would put games above family
every time. So if there was a flood and I had time to grab one thing before everything else got washed away, you grab the PS4.
Yeah, of course.
Because here's the thing: if I grab a family member, it's not gonna be fair to the rest of them. They're gonna be like, "Oh, he loves me less," before they die. So I'm just gonna let them all go.
Yeah, so you just let them all go, and
it's fair.
The PS4 that you can't buy in the store down the street.
PS4s don't grow on trees, people. But yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying, and that's the reason why we're doing this. So even if we've got 3 people that listen and want to chat with us about our thoughts on games, or maybe even eventually at some point join us on the show in some way, shape, or form, or send us, here, talk about this, that's awesome, and that's great. Mission accomplished. We've talked about games in a way that connects with somebody. And if it grows bigger than that, that's great too. But I'm with you. The idea is that I don't ever want to feel like it's canned, or that, hey, you weren't as jokey this time, or you didn't talk about families as much this time. Like, this is just going to be a natural flowing conversation where we've got notes, as you've heard us refer to, notes we've taken, because we do want to have some semblance of structure or guidance to our conversation. But what makes a good show, a good podcast, I think, is, at least when I'm listening along, is when I feel like I am part of a natural, organic conversation. And so that's really the point of what we're trying to do here. So, all right, that is, I think that'll wrap it up.
That wraps it up.
We've gone over 2 hours here. So for those of you who like the nice long podcasts, you're welcome. For those of you who aren't necessarily the biggest fans of podcasts that go for too long, hopefully you've been able to find a way to make your way to that pause button and then come back to it later. Hope that, that's usually the way to do it. People don't know this. You don't have to listen to a podcast from start to finish. You can actually stop it in between and come back to it.
Now, since this is at the end of the podcast, all those people that only like hour-long podcasts are never going to hear what you
That's
just
why
said.
I can kind of be snarky and sarcastic towards them, because they're never going to hear it.
You just need to edit it and put it in the front. Listen, you assholes who only like hour-long podcasts, we're going to go to
That's going to be in the
3 hours.
description. We're calling that the title. It's called Listen.
You
Yeah,
assholes.
it's called Listen, You Assholes. That's the name of it.
It's perfect.
All right, well, great. Well, thanks, Derek, for hanging out. I know that you've got, you've got work, you've got family, you've got things happening. So thanks for forcing everyone to be quiet enough for us to chat for a little while. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will talk to you again soon.
Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
That's the worst clapping ever.
I know, I was going to say yours was a fail, too.
No, I was right into the mic. That was sharp. That was strong. It's manly.